new episode of the MinnMax Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Suriel Vasquez.
Hi.
Kyle Hilliard.
Hi.
And Emily Reese.
Hello.
Welcome, Emily.
Why, thank you.
Let's see. Emily Reese, if you're a huge fan of Game Informer, I'm talking like deep cut fan, back in 2011 or early 2012,
something like
we made
that.
like a video all about your show that you had for NPR at the time, Minnesota Public Radio, called Top Score.
Yep.
And I filmed you playing Skyrim.
Yes.
Yes, you were going to interview somebody who has since been canceled, I believe, in culture. But then ended up being about like the soundtrack to Dragon Age. Is that what it was? Something like that.
Yeah, I think so. That's funny. I can't actually recall exactly which interview you were there observing. That's so funny. Was it Enon Zur?
He was Enon Zur. Yep,
Okay.
it was. Yeah,
All
that's right.
Well, there you go.
There
What
we
a
go.
Dragon Age. I love that guy.
But you're the world's foremost expert, I will just declare you, on video game music, specifically orchestral video game music.
Strongly disagree, but I wholeheartedly disagree. But I appreciate that. I feel honored, even though you're really wrong.
Okay.
Who do you think is the
what's
expert
the
on
correct
video game
answer?
music?
What's that?
Who's the correct answer?
Probably any of my listeners. You know what I mean? Like they, I didn't game growing up. I've really made very little effort to make up for that fact. So there's still just this giant hole in my knowledge. And while there's a lot that I appreciate, and I will tell you that surely when it comes to orchestral video game music, I know a thing or two.
There we go.
I'm just,
so
yeah.
you are classically trained, as some say, and then you found this niche that you've really blossomed in with Top Score as a podcast and also on NPR, and now with Level, which is your Patreon, and also a video game music podcast where you interview 1,000 composers.
Yes. Also, my favorite part about Level is two favorite parts that I was really kind of restricted in my previous employment that I'm no longer restricted in is at Level, we can really focus on whatever genre we want. We don't have to stick with a classical orientation. We can have rock scores and, whatever we want, 8-bit, whatever. And we like to, as often as possible, have on other people from the audio industry, just, anyone who makes a sound in a game, whether it's a voice actor or a sound designer, an audio director. We kind of like to open it up to just audio in games because the audio is, as we all know, it's the other half of the game.
Right. It's the part that people don't think about enough. And it's exciting to hear you interview all these composers because from what I've listened to so far, like everyone is just so excited to talk. I feel like so many times, I'm sure it's also editing on your part, but so many times it's just you going, yeah, oh, totally. Because they just like monologue for an hour, but it's always interesting. Like I listened to your interview with Kenny Young about, he had like an hour-long interview all about the soundtrack to Astrobot, which is one of my favorite soundtracks from last year. It just is so good. And it's so satisfying to hear him to be like, oh my God, somebody wants to actually hear this? I have so much to say.
Yeah, and they always do have so much to say, and that's the best part. Well, they almost always. The very Bill Elm, who did the very first Red Dead Redemption soundtrack, I don't think he'd ever been interviewed in his entire life, and so that was a funny interview because I was like, did you have a good time? And he's like, yep. I'm like, okay.
Were there instruments?
Yeah.
I just imagine like a PR representative from Rockstar recreating the cover image for the first Red Dead and just having the shotgun at his head the entire time anyway.
Yeah.
But you're here for several reasons. It's really a 1-2 punch.
Okay.
First of all, in this episode of the MinnMax Show, we're going to talk about our favorite game tracks from 2019. I saw some people, including Felix from the community, be like, when are you going to do that episode? We're doing it right now. And so we've all picked 3 to 4 tracks that really stood out to us this year, and we'll play them, and I'll think really hard about them and have really smart things to say about them.
Nod along with the music.
I sure do like it. Yep.
But we're also here to talk about last week's reveal of Half-Life Alyx, the new VR Half-Life game, which Kyle's very excited about. Cyril, I assume you're excited about.
Yeah, I really want to play a new Half-Life.
Great. And Emily Reese, what do you know about that?
We've been working behind the scenes with the audio team, just know a little like how to make audio for Half-Life Alyx.
So you've actually
incredible.
So you visited Valve.
We did.
To see the game, learn about the game.
Yep. About a year and a half ago.
A year and a half.
Yeah.
So you had to sit on knowing that a new Half-Life exists for a year and a half.
Yeah.
I mean,
it
we
was
knew the
my
rumors.
favorite secret ever.
Did you see like a lot of
Favorite
rumors
secret
on the
ever.
internet, and you're like, oh, you idiots.
Oh, so many. And my favorite part though was that, I've just had a lot of different jobs in my life. I've worked in radio for most of it, but I've got friends from all over, and many of them are not gamers, and so, none of them cared anyway. I mean, they care, but the friends that I
they didn't
do
realize
have,
the height of it.
the handful of like really tight homies that I have that are gamers, none of them guessed it was Valve. Like they're all like, "Oh, it's got to be Bethesda. It's some kind of
you have like a
Skyrim
secret project
thing."
Okay.
So I could say, I just couldn't say what it was, and nobody guessed that. And because nobody would have ever in a million years guessed that we'd be doing something like that with Valve on that project. I mean, it's just like, it's been really cool. Really
and so
amazing.
It's going to be a series of podcasts about the sound design, and it's going to be on your Level podcast?
Yep, it'll be on Level with Emily Reese, and I mean, we're going to just have so many just opportunities to share audio. We've done so much just background with each person, because each person on the team just has an incredible story, and they're incredibly talented and have a lot to say about the property itself and working at Valve, which is a unique experience. And so there's just going to be a lot to share, so long as they let us, I guess.
How did it happen? Who reached out to who?
It's been a bit now that I reached out to the composer, Mike Moraski, and just told him how much I loved his Portal 2 music.
Of course.
And so he was like, well, I like what you do, and so maybe we should do something sometime. And I'm like, yeah, maybe we should.
So you're saying I should have emailed someone at Valve a year and a half ago and been like, hey, I really like your games.
Hey,
and
Eric,
yes.
I think you're funny.
Yeah,
I thought you were a journalist, dude.
Yes, that's exactly what you should have done.
We all gave up on Half-Life like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, well, as you know, at Valve, I mean, seriously, if you can find a way to convince someone that you belong there, you can work there. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just it's such an interesting place, really.
What did you learn walking through those doors? I mean, you hear the legends, which some people say is a little bit exaggerated, about like, oh, level working place, like anybody can move around, it's pretty.
Desks on wheels, that kind of thing. Right?
It's just Mario Kart on desks all day.
I mean, I would just say that it is what you've read about in most ways. You know, people really can kind of move in and out of projects as they please. And I think there is, as exists in any workplace, I just don't want to. I don't want to be the person who speculates on that kind of stuff.
Right.
I just know that
there's internal politics and stuff that filters in.
It's not
of
for
course.
everyone.
Yeah.
We had a great time. I mean, everyone was awesome, and everyone that we're working with, they've really got a great thing going on. That audio team, they work really well together, and they make amazing things and come up with amazing ideas, and they invent.
Yeah.
Can I cuss? I'm sorry.
No, you can't, but that's fine.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
That's what we have bleeps for.
Yes, good.
It's funny because you give him more work to do. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
It's just I usually don't get to cuss in the first place when I'm on a microphone. So, so in any event, yeah, it's just it's a wonderful, wonderful place. Yeah.
Yeah. So how much time did you spend there?
We were there for like 2 full days.
Okay.
So 4 days with travel. So,
Yeah.
But just 2 days at Valve.
And so it's still a little ambiguous when you're going to be releasing the bulk of the content about Half-Life, Alyx?
Yeah, we'll probably wait, I'm sure, until either right before or after the game comes out.
Have you played Half-Life, Alyx?
Small, yes.
That's amazing.
Will they send
It's
you
a little-
a Valve Index at some point?
I hope so.
We're not. I know you probably can't say too much, but in general, how are you feeling about what you played?
Pardon.
Okay, hang on. She's consulting
Let's
her
speculate
lawyer.
on the end of the game and
so-
look at her eyes.
This water's telling me what I can't say.
Are you red hot, fascinated,
Yeah.
curious? What's the level?
Well, I'm split into 3. No, I'm kidding. I loved it. That's all. I mean, I just thought it was cool. And seriously, the 5 minutes of it this was a year and a half ago, so it's
Right.
probably not even in the game anymore. It was just cool though.
That's awesome.
It was great. Yeah. I mean, they know their VR. That's for
They've
sure.
been tinkering for a while with that stuff, right?
Yes.
So, okay.
And the audio part of this is so important too. Just, I mean, in terms of the headset on the Index is a huge deal that was invented by Emily Ridgway, who is a sound designer at Valve. usually working on Counter-Strike. She came from BioShock. You guys are BioShock fans? I love BioShock.
Yeah, no, of course.
She did, and Destroy All Humans. Destroy All Humans was her first game that she did. And the first sound effect she ever made for anything, she made for Destroy All Humans.
Oh, fun.
So, yeah, so she's brilliant, and she's the one who designed this really incredible headset that hangs off the index that solves all these problems that come up when we cover our ears to listen to sound. There's a lot of simulation that has to happen in terms of creating the audio so she solved that problem.
Well, I listened to your podcast about it because you released one kind of like a preamble to the Half-Life Alyx stuff.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because it's like, because with so many headsets, it's sealing off, like, this is the right ear, this is the left ear.
Yeah.
And the idea of, like, separating it out a little bit turns out it makes it so much more realistic because it turns out sounds that you hear from the right side of your body, some of those sounds are still going to come into your left ear. You know what I mean? So just trying to make it more like the real world, I guess it really clicked for making it more immersive.
It also helps with I messed around with the Valve Index a little bit, and it also makes it easier to solve the problem of like you having total immersion in, like to the exclusion of everything else around you. It makes it easier. So if someone is like, "Hey, I need your attention while you're playing the game," without interrupting, like without making it feel like the audio is like any less immersive than it usually is in VR.
Yeah. It's super exciting. Kyle, you're a big Half-Life fan.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We posted on the YouTube channel like our raw reactions, which I'm glad that'll be forever just a time capsule of us reacting to the Half-Life Alyx
10 years from now, we can have let's take a look at that, at your reactions to this. Right, exactly.
What should we know? So it's a prequel. What should we know about the world of Half-Life at this point? I think people have a rough idea, even if they're not big Half-Life fans, like, okay, there's head crabs, some sort of interdimensional nonsense, but like, what is happening in this era of the Half-Life world?
So it seems like, so you're looking for like almost like the lore, like where I think it places, right? Because there's Half-Life 1, and then there's a big gap between Half-Life 2 where Gordon's...
How big of a gap?
I want to say like 15 or I don't
several
quote me.
years.
Yeah, it's a lot. And Gordon's just been gone. Like he just disappears. And in that time, from the trailer, it looks like City 17, which is like the main place where Half-Life 2 takes place, is like halfway being built. Like it's in the process of being erected. Like,
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, like the aliens haven't been there too long. Like they're definitely there and they've definitely taken over, but they're still building up their infrastructure. Is my estimate from watching the trailer over and over and over and over and over.
Right. Okay, so I have a very naive question. I've played half of Half-Life 1. I've started Half-Life 2.
Quarter life, yeah.
That's right. So aliens come from the other dimension, opened at the beginning of Half-Life 1. How does that lead to this police state in City 17?
It's complicated. I mean, like, so Black Mesa basically accidentally opened a portal, and that's...
Well, you did, yeah.
Yeah, you literally do in the beginning of the game. And then, like, it's tricky because I think the Combine are almost like a separate... Like, they're basically alerted to the existence of Earth. And I think they kind of come in and they sort of like take it over. Like it's Half-Life Half-Life 2 in particular is basically an alien invasion story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then like there are elements of teleportation and like travel. And I was even telling you there's like a little bit of time travel even in there to a certain degree. Not like no one has a DeLorean or anything like that, but there are moments where you get like sucked into the future and stuff like that. So but it's just basically the Combine are this alien this invading force that just has enslaved the Earth, and they have people who are like Dr. Breen is like trying to work with the aliens. Like he's kind of the villain in Half-Life 2, and he's kind of trying to find a middle ground where we can live with these aliens. He's doing a bad job, but like that's kind of where it is. Like there's aliens are taking over and humans are trying to there's like the people who are like, let's just embrace this and try to have a good time here, people. And then there's like Alyx Vance and her crew and Gordon who are like, no, we don't want any part of this. We're going to shoot these guys.
Right. So in this era then, before Half-Life 2, I know the G-Man is very mysterious.
Yeah.
And they tease him at the end of the Half-Life Alyx trailer. What is he up to in this era? No one knows.
No one really knows.
Just walking around looking at people again?
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's you kind of just see him like walking around the world. But no one really knows. And it's like an impressive feat that they've kept him like this totally secret after what, like Half-Life 1, 2, and episode, you know, like all these entries. We still don't know whose side the G-Man is on. We don't know what he is. We don't know. Like he seems to be helping Gordon, but he might have his own motivations. Maybe he's using Gordon for something.
Emily,
like,
after 2 days of Valve, do you know who the G-Man is and what his motivations are?
Yeah. Did you meet the G-Man?
No.
Gabe Newell?
Oh, Gabe Newell.
G for Gabe.
No.
Hey, did you meet Gabe Newell?
No.
Oh, he's just nowhere to be seen.
I mean, we just hung out with the audio crew the whole time. We did get to wander around and see other areas like the Counter-Strike area because that's where Emily usually hangs out since she does sound there. And we saw like the prototype room where they have like hardware that they're
tinkering around with.
Which is incredible. I mean, that's just
unrevealed hardware.
As we discussed shortly not long ago, I'm not very technologically inclined, so seeing people tinkering like that is really fascinating to me. Yeah.
Any teases? Is it stuff that the world hasn't seen?
Well, that's
yet?
where we saw the headset. That's where we got to try the headset because at the time the headset. I'm just starting to panic about everything I say. This is what these companies do to you. But that's where we tried the headset. Okay. So I've never actually had an index on my head.
Right.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
The index is out.
Yeah,
yep.
it's
It came out in
yeah.
July, I believe.
That's right.
They revealed with the headphones. Yeah.
Did you? Just focusing on the audio team. Did you get any glimpse of like Campo Santo? So the Campo Santo team who made Firewatch, they were incorporated within Valve. They're making In the Valley of the Gods, and then it seems like from the Jeff Keighley's Final Hours thing, seems like the team has been absorbed into the Half-Life Alyx team to some extent. Did you see anything like that?
We just worked with the people that have worked at Valve for quite some time now.
Yeah.
Just that crew that I talked about on our podcast with Roland Shaw and Dave Fiza, who are both technically, quote unquote, just sound designers, but they're composers too.
Like Left 4 Dead and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They've worked on everything between the two of them, every Valve property that's still being maintained in some way, shape, or form. And then Mike Moraski, who's the composer, but Mike visits Valve to do work on occasion. So he's not necessarily in-house, even though he kind of more or less is. You know what I mean?
Okay,
yeah.
sure. Gotcha.
He's usually working remotely. And then Emily Ridgway, and then the Steam Audio team, which was also whole other like way they help out gamers around the world. I mean, that's the other thing about Valve. It's so global. They do so much stuff, and they do. They're all so smart, and it's just So it was cool to meet the Steam Audio team because that's their like third party. Well, I don't know if that's not the right way to explain it, but that's how they help games have realistic sound, like how sound bounces off objects in the world and interacts with objects in the world to just make it sound more realistic. And
yeah, for sure.
It's incredible.
Kyle.
Yes, hello.
An easier topic to talk about. Okay, outside of lore, with the trailer itself, dissecting the trailer, at the start of the trailer, there's the character saying, like, hey, if we get this weapon, we could change things forever. Do you have a sense of what that weapon is? Like, does Alyx have a weapon at the start of Half-Life 2 that is clear?
No. I mean, I guess it might be the gravity gun, but that seems weird that they would tease that.
Right. Well, what'd you make of that shot in the trailer where it looked like she was almost using gravity or some force to like pull a device off of a guard?
Well, I mean, she does that multiple times, which is interesting because that's a VR thing, right? Of like pulling objects towards you so that you don't have to like lean onto the ground and pick things up. But I think in the world of Half-Life, it actually is functional and makes sense because I think what she has, that glove, it has the same orange glow as the gravity gun.
Okay.
So I'm guessing it's like an early prototype of the gravity gun, kind of.
So that could be the weapon.
Yeah, but I think that tease is like something bigger that we don't understand yet. Like she's trying to get to the vault. She talks about
and the
vault.
Is that a thing that's established in Half-Life lore?
No.
Is that the ship that's like on the strings
That's
above
the
the city?
assumption. Yeah,
Okay.
like that's like because when she talks about it, they show it on two instances. I watched this trailer a lot, and I'm guessing whatever the weapon. I think it's something in there that we don't know what it is yet.
Okay.
That's my assumption. I don't think it would be kind of fun, but it would be also kind of weird if like you're trying to get in the vault the whole game to get this weapon, and it's like the gravity gun. It's like, well, I've used this thing a lot. Like I know how this thing works.
Kyle, what if it's f-stop?
What if it?
The legendary
I was hoping
weapon.
we would talk about f-stop. I mean, there's nothing to say other than
What is it?
What is f-stop?
No, but want to set it up?
Oh, okay, so years ago, I think it was in one of Keighley's Final Hours,
yeah.
right? They were doing a game jam, Valve internally, and they had all these different ideas, and one of them was f-stop. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was going to be incorporated into Portal 2.
Yeah.
But then they were like, you know what? This is worth its own thing. We're going to set this aside. And that's all we know is that there was something that they came up with that they were so excited about that they're like, we got to put this aside to be its own game or something.
Yeah.
And it's called f-stop, which is a a camera term.
Yeah.
Right? It's about focus?
I think it's aperture, but yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So what is f-stop?
Honestly, I've never made that aperture connection until right now.
Yeah, yes, of course. I'm glad we got here
Yeah.
together. I think Keely knows what f-stop is. So
Yeah.
maybe if we ever get a chance to talk to him, we can just throw that in the middle of a bunch of questions. Like, where'd you get your start? What's f-stop? You know, what's coming up on the Game Awards next year?
And Emily, we're just going to check your pulse while we keep saying the word f-stop to see if there's any indication. It's actually some sort of lie detector. Okay, so also in the trailer, there's so many shots of her like charging her hands because she has like these robotic gloves. Is that a thing from her?
That's a Half-Life thing. Like that,
charging your hands?
That system that she seems to be, it seems to be she's like getting health back.
Yeah.
Like I think even that in the trailer is like a call out to like, hey, this familiar Half-Life thing of walking up to this system and charging your power, this is how it's going to function.
It wasn't exactly, it wasn't one-to-one because I think in Half-Life 2 you would just recharge your suit.
Yeah, you
but
had
it
health in your
wasn't
suit
like you didn't
charging.
put your hand on it or anything as far as
No, I mean I think the implication
right
was
is
like
that it
Gordon
is
was
that same
touching
technology,
it,
yeah.
But I don't think that was like a new mechanic. I think that was more of like a callback to like this is how this thing that's familiar to Half-Life, this is how it's going to work.
Okay.
I think.
Did you...
This is all me guessing.
I love it. This is very specific. I love it. There's one quick shot in the trailer of like some sort of hologram planning table.
Yeah.
And she puts a cup on the table.
Yeah.
What do you think that is?
I don't know. Like that, because you could look at it and be like, oh, maybe they're just trying to show VR. It's fun to pick up stuff.
Yeah, because there's a lot of like throwing objects at enemies or like clearing a shelf with your hand, which all looks very fun.
But it does also, when she puts that cup down, like a kind of a blurry hologram appears as though it's like, I don't know, maybe it's like reading DNA or something.
Or do you think it's like an ODST thing where she's going around and like finding these artifacts or something?
No, I don't think it's that.
Okay.
But there's, I don't know. That one's tough because I look at it and I'm like, are they just showing gameplay mechanics? It's fun to drop things on a table, or is that like this cup has some important Gordon drank from this cup and his DNA is
Cup of Christ.
and it's like this is how we find Gordon again, you know? Maybe Gordon's the weapon.
I don't remember that part in the trailer, the cup, but I do remember in Half-Life 2 when you go into the lab and you can like that's one of the first things you can like portal over. Is there's a cup sitting on the thing, and you remember that?
Yeah. Like there's all these like physics objects, because like that Half-Life 2 was all about physics. That was the big sort of evolution in that game.
But I love it, even in Half-Life Alyx, in that wide shot of the city, the reveal of that. There's a helicopter flying, and it's hauling some big object, and it's like swaying. It's just like physics pouring out of the gate. Like, I don't know, there's a helicopter.
It's like, all right,
some cool
confirmation, Source 2 will have physics.
Yes, exactly. Let's see, puzzle solving, it seemed like in that trailer, very exciting for you.
Which is, well, yes and no, because like the thing about Half-Life and Half-Life 2 is like the puzzles have always been really well integrated in the environment. Like they are part of the environment. And like the thing that she was doing almost seemed like there was this like UI mask on top, like behind, like she was like rearranging wires behind a wall.
Yeah.
And it almost felt like I would almost say like a traditional puzzle. Like it was almost like a mechanic that would maybe be in like a puzzle game or something like that.
Right. It's more like they highlight the part of the thing that's a puzzle versus like you have to put a grenade in the lever to basically push it out.
Yeah.
And it all looks like it's part of the, like, it doesn't feel out of place in a building.
Yeah,
right?
like because Half-Life 2 was all about like they did a good job of making you feel like you were using the environment to solve your puzzles, where this feels like, oh, I have a special tool that occasionally I'll have to flip some switches or something.
It's like it's time to go into puzzle mode versus like, oh, this is a natural solution.
But it does look like it's using VR in an interesting way, because when they show that mechanic a little bit later in the trailer, Alyx is actually like moving wires in 3D space to connect dots.
Yeah,
which is kind of interesting.
So she's gonna be kind of circling around.
Yeah,
kind of,
I mean, like
that sounds fun in VR.
Yeah, like I want to. It's one of those things I want to play. But my initial reaction was like, oh, that doesn't look like a Half-Life puzzle to me. You know,
right.
I'm also curious to how they said that it works with every like VR headset except for like PSVR basically. But
and
they said
they probably want to work on that port at some point.
Sure. I mean,
maybe
I would imagine
PS5 type thing. Yeah.
I'd be curious to see what the differences are, because they said it is designed around the index, because like they have the Knuckles controllers which have separate inputs for like two of your fingers.
Yeah.
So I wonder how that translates over to like, you know, the Oculus, which has more button oriented stuff and like a trigger. But I'd be curious to see if like if puzzles are like literally different depending on what platform you play on.
Yeah. And they did say in that final hours, Keely brought up like, I think Keely did a good job with that interview. I know everybody gives Keely a lot of crap, but I think he's really good just at being blunt. and
Yeah.
just
He asked them,
asking the
why
most
isn't this
obvious
Half-Life
things.
3? Yeah, which
Exactly,
is like I appreciate.
you know. But then he asked about like, oh, can you make a non-VR version of this? And they're like, well, we're focused on VR. It started as VR. Like they aren't fully ruling it out, but it's very heavily implied that like this is the entire idea of this thing.
They said in that interview, they were like, well, if we were to translate this to, which is now the term has become flat screen to like VR and playing games outside of VR. That's funny that's what it's become. They were like,
wow.
Yeah, we'd have to use like half the keyboard just to map controls for how to open a door. Because like which is like an interesting idea. You know, it's like, because I guess what you can like crack doors open and toss grenades in or even lean in and shoot. And it's like, yeah, how do you do that?
We did that with the Resident Evil 2 stream, don't you remember?
Oh,
like
that's
barely
right.
opening that door.
And it looked really cool.
Yeah, definitely
was
high
fun.
fidelity for sure.
Great. Before we move on to game music overall, I did want to give a plug to the first MinnMax community meetup, which we have lined up. Yeah, I'm super excited. Like one of the things that I want to do for so long is have more community meetups, and now it's like after leaving Game Informer, it's like, okay, it doesn't need to be perfect. Don't expect banners and fancy things like
or bansers. You know?
Don't expect any
Whatever
belly
those are.
dancers. But like, let's just all get together, have some beers if you'd like, and just talk about games as a big group, right? And so the first one's going to be at Bauhaus Brew Labs, which is a brewery in northeast Minneapolis. They do genuinely make one of my favorite beers, Wonder Stuff. So I'm so excited that like it happened to work out with them, and they have a good big space. They have Killer Queen there. But Bauhaus Brew Labs on Monday, December 9th at 8 p.m.
Central Time.
Central
do we have to say
time.
that?
I think it's so. This is just in Minnesota, and I understand a lot of people are bummed out that live internationally or other places in the States. No promises, but I'm going to try to just like set up a laptop that's like an unlisted private stream for the Patreon supporters, and then I'll stand next to that mic for some of the night or most of the night, right? And just kind of talk to people. I think it'd be fun just to see what that environment's like. But we're going to be playing Smash Brothers, hopefully. They say they have a projector that should work, so we can have a Smash Brothers tournament. And then just, casual chit-chat. But there's a nice positive angle as well. We're talking to Bauhaus, which, by the way, they've been amazing. And just so I could spell it here, Bauhaus, Bauhaus. But they were so nice. And they pitched out of the gate like, yeah, we have this like charity drive in December before Christmas. It's like a toy drive. It's called Sweet Toys for Sick Kids. And so maybe we can connect it with your thing. And I'm like, absolutely.
Nice.
And so what you do is you bring in a newish toy, but unsealed. Don't go out and buy a toy unless you want to and then take it out of the packaging. But if you have a toy that isn't used and crappy, bring it in and you get a free beer for it. And then they take those toys and deliver it to a children's hospital for Christmas. And so make it good. It's like, man, this audience, guaranteed we've all got some Star Wars toys or something that we realistically don't need anymore, right?
And there's a whole shelf right there.
We have. I'll give up everything except for my Frieza in the tuxedo, which I'm still in love with. But so bring in a toy to Bauhaus on December 9th, that Monday at 8 p.m., and then you get a free beer. And the cool thing too is they're like, yeah, if somebody brings in a really sweet toy, like we'll give them like a free growler or something. So like it scales up depending on how good the toy is.
Nice.
So we would love for everybody to show up. You don't need to be a Patreon supporter if you're just listening or watching to this. Everybody's welcome. Capacity is like 187. It's like I don't think we're gonna fill that. This could go either way, but they are open to us recording live podcasts there in the future, and it's a really nice space for that. And so I really want to impress Bauhaus. So please come by. Please bring a toy. And for people outside of Minnesota, I'm going to try and set up some way for you to be generous with this charity as well. Maybe we can have some pool where everybody can chip in, and we can buy more toys, or just make it a check going to that hospital, something like that. So we'll try and get that out there and plan it all out. But
Nice.
Have you been to Bauhaus, Emily?
Nope.
Okay, great. It's
one of the
wonderful.
few in the cities I haven't visited.
Well, there we go.
lately.
How about
Yeah.
Monday, December 9th? You
That
come
sounds
by
good.
and hold court about playing Half-Life Alyx. This will be great. So yes, be sure to tell a friend about that. We'd appreciate it. Okay, game music in 2019. We all have 4 to 3 to some number of tracks. We will need to put headphones on to hear these. And I want to make sure it's going to feel really uncomfortable in the room, but we should let these tracks play for a while, right? I feel like people are always like, stop playing 20 seconds, then talking over. Let's just sit in our discomfort now for the sake of the listeners. Okay, so let's get those headphones out. Okay, turns out we'll just insert the audio in post so we won't have headphones after all.
Perfect.
This is seamless. Okay, first song, Kyle. Here it is. Kyle, that's your fourth favorite song of the year.
Yeah. So if you couldn't figure it out by just listening, the lyrics were "Take Control."
Yeah.
And that's from the game Control.
And it's during like the maze sequence?
Like, honestly, I don't really like the song. It's not a very good song. But in the context of the game, there's this crazy puzzle that you have to get through. And like, you're actually given, isn't it a tape deck, I think?
Yeah,
I think
you're giving
cassette,
like a Walkman or something. Yeah.
And she puts on headphones and she has to listen to this song in order to get through this crazy maze in the game. And I think even the gunfire and stuff is muted because she's listening to this like this rockin' song that's has the words control in the game Control.
That's absurd.
It's so weird. And like I think if you look as we talk about Control in like the larger year, I think a lot of people will point to that as being like like a weird, crazy moment in the game because even like visually, the stuff that's going on is insane, and then like this insane song is happening too. It's just such like a weird thing, and like right when it kicked off, and I was like, all right, we're getting some rock here, and the lyrics are "Take Control," and I'm like, all right, what are we doing here?
All right, great stuff.
More subtle than Kojima.
That's right. All right, my number 4 is Unexpected. Keep in mind, this is about as far as I got in the game.
I'd like to point out that Hanson asked us for 3 songs, and
that
both
is true.
of them have
and then I just really wanted to squeeze these in.
And I gave him 5, and he cut one of mine, apparently.
Well, no. It still will be played by somebody else, Kyle.
All right.
We'll see how it goes. This is from Kingdom Hearts 3, ladies and gentlemen, the Mount Olympus field music. That's by Yoko Shimomura, who did Final Fantasy 15. We talked to her on that cover story trip, did an interview with her that's up online at Game Informer. But then also she's composed Street Fighter 2. Like she goes back so far in the industry. It's just awesome. But in terms of songs that got stuck in my head in an unexpected way, I spent days just humming that stupid little refrain.
Kingdom. I think it's fair to say that you're not a fan of Kingdom Hearts, the franchise, the game, right?
I want to like it desperately.
But this is like just another sort of check mark in like things that Hanson loves. Disney, Final Fantasy,
Yoko Shimomura,
Pixar, great music. Like
Yeah.
the show, it all has great music, but it's just like it's this weird thing where for you it just doesn't come together.
It's almost like the storytelling is embarrassing.
Really?
Except for that. Emily, you're the smartest person musically here. So if you ever just want to throw out some real zingers that just floor us for why these songs are good compared to, I'm not putting you on the spot now, but I'm saying, we're just like, it sounds catchy.
Yeah,
but if you're like,
use
well,
words like pianissimo and like forte.
What is the most impressive thing you can hear musically that we can't? Notes?
I could probably transcribe that melody for you after hearing it.
Are you
once.
kidding me?
No.
Oh, that's amazing.
But I mean, look where that got me in life. You know what I mean? It's like
Playing Half-Life Alyx.
I know. We're all very
All right, fair
jealous. I
enough.
don't know if we made that clear.
No kidding.
No. That's just a weird. It's about the only kind of memory I have is a musical memory.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, your first song, Emily, there's 2 versions. Would you like to play one over the other, or do you want to play both?
Yeah, we'll play the day version.
Day version. Okay.
I know that my other 2 examples are orchestral, but this one is definitely not because anytime Jesper Kyd is going to release new music, he's probably going to be in my top because he's just so good. And
he's known for like the Assassin's Creed soundtracks.
Assassin's Creed and Hitman and Borderlands.
Darksiders 2.
Darksiders 2.
Yeah.
Oh, Darksiders 2 is probably my favorite soundtrack of his, to be honest.
Yeah, it's better than the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I like Darksiders too, but that soundtrack.
That
Is he your
soundtrack
favorite video game composer?
He's one of them.
Who do you think is number 1? Not to put you on the spot again.
No, probably Gary Scheinman is probably
really?
my favorite.
Bioshock? One time at E3, I was walking into the main convention center, and it was Marty O'Donnell from Halo fame talking to Gary Scheinman, that's his name. And someone came up to Marty O'Donnell. And I also overheard this as I was walking by. Somebody came to Marty O'Donnell like, "Oh my God, Marty, I'm a big fan." And Marty goes, "Do you know who you're standing next to? Like, this is Gary Scheinman. Like, kiss his ass too." Really
That's
fun.
amazing. Yeah.
Okay, let's get to this track from the beginning here.
Yeah, sure. This is just the main menu theme from Borderlands 3, and it has a day version and a night version because there's day-night cycles in the game. So
There we go. I love that you chose that because I think with Borderlands, everybody's like, okay, you have the licensed songs in the beginning, always the big kickoff thing, but just like giving credit to like, no, the rest of the score is actually very good too.
The rest of the score is amazing, and I mean that game was so big. They've had multiple composers on that game since the beginning, but on Borderlands 3, and you know, honestly, they might have done this in 2 in a different way as well. But in Borderlands 3, there are different planets that you go to. I haven't played it yet. I'm going to pick up on Friday, Black Friday sale.
Oh, nice.
Borderlands 3 has been on my list for a while. But you can go to different planets, and each composer took a different planet. So
that's cool.
That works really well because a lot of times with multiple composers, there can be this like lack of cohesion, not for anybody's fault or because somebody's bad or any reason like that. It's just difficult to create a sound, you know, between multiple composers around the world or however it's done. And so I like how they did that in the game. I'm anxious to hear how that actually plays out during gameplay. But
Yeah.
I mean, Jesper's just, he just has such detail. There's so much detail in his music and it always just has the most chill vibe, no matter what. And he's a chill guy, and it just comes through in his music. Just really, he can really create that atmosphere of, I don't know, just chill. You know,
Hanging out on the start screen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no matter what game. I mean, he's just always had just such a groove to all his music that, you know. That's a special trait, I think. Yeah. Anyway.
I love it. Cyril Vasquez, which one do you want to start with, sir?
The last one, the one
you just added?
the one I swapped in.
Okay, great. So this is Fire Emblem Three Houses' main theme.
Yeah.
And then singing starts or
Yeah,
something.
and then
I was just
there's
about to
Orbis.
say, this sounds like it has words.
Well, it had that chanting in the beginning, which was
Yeah, it's,
eerie.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, that's
there's
cool.
it's. I mean, there are a lot of versions of that melody in that soundtrack. So I'm this is like the baseline that they use to like iterate on it. But I kind of want to use it as a way to talk about that soundtrack as a whole, which I think is really well like structured as part of the game. The way the game works is that you are eventually split into one of 3 houses and you take a different path. And so each of those characters has like several versions of that theme throughout their storyline, because there's like a time skip. So they have like, Edelgard will have her pre-time skip versus post-time skip version of that exact same theme. And I think it ties into that game's themes of like, they all have the same background, but they have their own, twist on their experience of it. And it, when they use it later on to iterate, like, this is an important moment when these two sides are clashing, but they're also, they're not doing it because they want to. They just have very different convictions about, like, look, you're my friend, but I believe this very strongly, so we're going to have to fight about it. So I think it does, like, that theme, which they iterate in the schoolyard when you're walking around, there's like a more casual version of that theme. And there's a battle version of that theme, things like that. I think that melody has become like a really strong kind of like encapsulation of that entire game. And, there are some soundtracks where that is the case, where you can sort of go down the track list and listen to it, and you kind of have like a summation of the game in your mind. And I think this is one of those really good ones where you read Dimitri's and you get this sense of, oh, he's very desperate. Something really bad has happened to him. You get Edelgard's where he's like, not to spoil stuff, but like she's very convinced about what she's doing, and she's kind of like using her position, for better or worse. And then there's Claude, who's like trying to mastermind the perfect solution to this problem. And so all of their themes play into their versions of that theme play into that.
Cool. I love it. Great choice. Kyle Hilliard, number 3.
Okay. The order is weird, but I guess it makes sense.
Let's just start around the table like this.
That's fine. I want to go next.
And it is...
It's Vane,
yep.
Right? Okay.
That came out this year?
That came out this year. It was very early this year. And like that game, kind of in the way like you want to talk about the larger soundtrack, Vane was this really like ambitious, ambiguous kind of game that members of Team Ico worked on. Yeah. And like... it was really cool, but I think for my review that I did for Game Informer, the score is not great because it was very buggy and like. But the sound, it's a synthwave soundtrack, and I have like really gotten into synthwave over the last couple of years. Like that's what I listen to almost exclusively when I write. Yeah, it's just like the Spotify synthwave list, and I think this game has really good synthwave. So you don't have to play it a lot because synthwave is kind of repetitive,
Sure.
But yeah, really good soundtrack for a cool game that I would encourage you to check out now because I'm sure it's been patched.
There we go. So this is Metamorphosis from Vane. So imagine that walking through a very abstract, shifting environment that's just being like pounded by storms and rain. And it's like you're a taxi driver in a cyberpunk future.
Yeah, wow, that seems like a cool idea. Yeah, it's very Blade Runner. It's super Blade Runner.
But it's crazy because you play as a bird flying over a desert.
Yeah, it's like the other reason like I want to highlight it again is because it is that genre I love, which is like basically Fever Dream, the video game. Which is kind of what I think like Limbo and Inside is. Like this one didn't execute quite as well as those games I love, but just really dark, moody soundtrack, really dark environments with like shifting, abstract stuff happening. You change into a bird and fly around. It's a very cool game. Very
awesome.
Good soundtrack.
Nice.
I love it. Emily, let's keep rolling to you.
Yeah. Show me what's next.
I will show you what's next.
Okay.
Here we go.
We all know our list perfectly.
Yeah. I didn't know. I couldn't remember in which order I supplied them. This next one, actually a podcast friend sent us in our Discord chat, just like, hey, check out this score. And I was actually intrigued by the game, and it was a game I really enjoyed, even though I hate games like this. because there's like nothing to shoot or drive. You can't drive or fly or shoot or parachute or anything. Yeah.
The 5 gaming verbs.
Yeah.
You already sold us. What's the game?
The game is Heaven's Vault, and the composer is a British fella named Lawrence Chapman. And we had an interview about it, and we got on really well, actually, just because we like a lot of the same composers, and so that was a fun conversation. But he basically just did piano and string quartet, which is quite lovely for this score. So, this
Under the Eye of Kibenya is the name of this track.
sounds about how I would say it.
Thank you.
Because it goes on and on.
And also, I didn't want to start crying. So
Yeah. It could use more synth.
It needs more cowbell for sure.
that was lovely.
Yeah, I liked that score quite a bit, and just a nice, accompaniment to the game itself, which was pretty as well. And I liked that setup of string quartet and piano. That's not a combination you hear too often in games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's a natural transition. Pokemon Sword and Shield, everybody. The soundtrack overall...
There's some synth in there.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, it's like there's bagpipes. It's very British themed. And then I'm not in love with the soundtrack. The main battle theme has a section I really like. And then you get to the first gym battle. And it's like, what are they doing? It is just wild. Okay, here's the gym battle theme. Keep in mind, it's in a big British stadium.
Okay.
And it's odd.
I can't tell what kind of tonality they're going for there. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's just trying to bring, I think, obviously, like that the football stadium over there, like the soccer chants into a Pokemon battle.
But that's like more Brazilian, isn't it? Kind of like
that's soccer in
well,
general.
I guess
it's
so.
like things are not consonant. You know what I mean? Not that everything is supposed to be.
Can an
obviously,
entire
but
stadium be in consonants? Is that how you say it?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, even in that first part when you first turned it on for us, and there was like one of those percussion sounds or something. I really would love to hear that on headphones,
right.
Or just not in this way, because some of those overtones on some of those synth sounds were clashing horrendously. You know what I mean? Like, that was like...
Hanson, you made this?
That was
like,
a
did
bad
you
pick.
I mean, you want to know? Well, no,
Yeah, that was
it's
my
not that.
that was my joke pick.
I'm just so curious, like, if that was super intentional, and what would that sound like in a car stereo, or did they just forget? Because sometimes people don't, when you're mixing stuff, especially like you got to make sure you're listening on all these different sound systems, and maybe they forgot to listen to it on a laptop. I don't know. But did you hear? I mean, let's.
I already closed it, but we'll trust you that it sounds good. It's more, I think, like atmosphere that's just so bizarre for Pokemon.
There's a very much a UK
amazing.
rave circa like 2010 kind of sound to it.
I also like how unexpected it is
Totally.
for
It's
Pokemon
amazing.
in particular. Yeah.
Especially with the drop in the middle is amazing.
Yeah,
It's amazing. Yeah.
Have to wait for half the song to be like, okay, this is what I want to get into.
Yeah, exactly. Normally it syncs up for when you Dynamax too, which is very fun. Okay, Serial, your next entry.
Mansion. From the No More Heroes, or the Travis Strikes Again No More Heroes soundtrack.
This is why I like doing this, because again, it's like Travis Strikes Again came out 2019?
Yeah. Somebody sent me this track.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's very much in line with Kyle's last pick, where it's like very chill. Like this has been. I don't like listening to entire soundtracks because I get too distracted of like, oh, now it's time for this song. Now I'm excited. Now I'm distracted from writing.
Yeah.
So writing to one song over and over again is sort of how I do things. And this is the song that I've been using for the last couple months.
Okay, here's Mansion from Travis Strikes Again.
Pantomime some keyboarding.
Yeah. So the theme of the game is that you're going into various old like video games that I think were banned because I think they killed people, but like
Video games.
Yeah. So you're in this one that's based on like the PlayStation era, and this is the one that looks like the inside of the foyer of like the Resident Evil 1 mansion.
Oh,
so
weird.
like you're kind of, and the idea is that you're going into different doors to unlock different doors, things like that. And so this is like the music that plays in the lobby as you're traversing the different like doors, basically, because they all lead to like different worlds.
Is it
and
meant to be
stuff.
horror?
Not really.
No?
It's,
Okay.
Cool.
Also, shout out, one of my entries was going to be the Resident Evil 2 save room, but not the remade version, the original, which is also in the remake Resident Evil 2. Still
cheating.
I know, I didn't play it. Kyle, your next pick, certain Cadence.
Yeah, this one almost feels like cheating because
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's Zelda music.
It's obvious.
But this is like one of my favorite takes on Zelda music. This song, I love this so much. I would listen to it over and over, and even like got me back behind my drum set, like trying to play this, which I don't do very much anymore.
Yeah.
This song in particular from Cadence of Hyrule, I really love.
Cadence of Hyrule. And which track is it?
Windmill, I think it is. There you go. So
There it is.
You host a jazz.
Yeah. Is the
Was
whole score that jazzy?
No.
Okay.
no, this is
What
one
was-
of the
That was
exceptions,
good
yeah.
jazz, right?
That was great. Yeah,
okay.
no, that's great.
It's that whole soundtrack is fantastic.
It's amazing.
It's really great. That particular song is like, easy to miss. Like there's like a windmill in the top like left corner of the map, and you go in there, and there's two versions of it, kind of like the day-night cycle with Borderlands. Like there's a version if you've kept the beat up, you get a sort of a more filled version. But I like that version because like the drums are mixed so high, and I just love good drums. I don't know, and I would just like that. Of a great Zelda soundtrack, like that one just stood out to me as like that's my favorite. I love that one particular track so much.
Yeah.
I almost put one from that same soundtrack. I think mine would have been like the menu theme, like that for the main title theme, because for the same reason of like the drums are mixed so high that they have this really strong kick to them.
Yeah,
and it takes forever in that main menu theme, but friend of the show, Adriana Figueroa.
That's right.
Friend of the family there for the Hilliards.
Yeah, my sister, good friends with my sister.
Yeah, she sings for several tracks. Like Great Fairy Fountain and then the title theme, which is awesome.
Yeah, and she does a good job.
But the frustrating thing, of course, is they can't talk about it because it's under that Nintendo umbrella, right?
I tried when it came out to talk to multiple. I tried to go through Nintendo. I tried to go through the developer. And
Danny Baranowski from Super Meat Boy fame. Yeah, he always did that. He actually gave a great interview on, I think it was Game Maker's Notebook, where he was talking to Austin Wintory. And it was all just about his history in the industry, and he touched a little bit on it, but much in the same way you're talking about Half-Life Alyx right now. We're like, how much can I say? Right? It's like I think he's very much in that. But I mean, what a treat for him to spend years remixing Zelda music,
and he knocked it out of the park. That's so good.
It's amazing. Okay, Emily.
Oh yes,
Number one. What do we got here?
This is cheating. Also, this is a game that came out last year, but the interview that I did with Olivier came out this year, and Olivier Derivière is one of my favorite video game composers as well. He's so talented, and he always manages to work with amazing groups. And this soundtrack is interesting. This is a more narrative-driven game as well, which, again, not my favorite kind of game. But the music
no time for talking.
Dope. The music's great and unique because they did not perform to a click track, which always has to happen in music for media. The orchestra has to wear a click, or they'll have to separate out the brass from the strings, from the percussion, from, however. And this was recorded like a concert, basically, no click. So it just feels a little more organic in that way. And also it was recorded with an orchestra that is actually an orchestra all the time. Like that's their job, is to play orchestral concerts year-round. They're not a recording studio artist. Not to knock that at all. It's just a different thing. So it's the Philharmonia Orchestra out of London, and they're phenomenal.
It's called Harry's Voyage from
Harry's
1111
Voyage.
Memories Retold, which was Aardman. They were involved in that game. I think I started playing this game. Okay.
Yes.
I think you were the only one.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is actually a more choral stuff, which is shocking that I would pick that. But it's just so lovely, really well-written stuff. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. It's just so beautiful, and I love that music like that exists in games. I just think
and I gotta imagine in context too, when you're dealing with World War I and hearing that, like that's a double whammy.
Yep. And
hey guys, World War I, that's a double whammy.
That's a downer.
But the music.
The music. World.
Well, World War I soundtrack, amazing.
For me, hey, speaking of Out of This World soundtrack, the main title theme to The Outer Worlds, a game we did the deepest dive on. You could not get more detail. And by the way, I should point out, we'll have the names of all these tracks in the timestamps. So if you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, you can find all the names there and everything. But here is the main menu theme for The Outer Worlds from Obsidian. But that was crazy because it was Justin Bell, who I think is the in-house composer for Obsidian, but that entire soundtrack I think is so strong. And like maybe I just haven't been paying enough attention to Obsidian soundtracks recently with the Pillars franchise and stuff like that. But this soundtrack just blew me away out of the blue.
It's also, it sets us weird. It wasn't what I expected from the start screen of Outer Worlds.
Yeah, totally.
Because I was like, okay, we're in for a goofball sci-fi comedy.
100%.
But that's more like Star Trek almost, like
that's
optimistic.
very Jerry Goldsmith.
That's what they're directly going for.
Yeah, they nailed it.
Can I just ask a very dumb question? And you're welcome to say there's no answer to that, you idiot. But that song in particular, it's a longer song, and it starts so small and gets so big, and it's such a satisfying build, satisfying progression. Is there a music term for that, or just for understanding why it's so satisfying to keep adding layer upon layer upon layer upon layer?
Yeah, I mean, probably the best example of that from the classical world is a French piece. A French composer named Maurice Ravel wrote this piece, Bolero, which I'm sure you would probably recognize if you heard.
How would I spell it?
Bolero. It's Bolero.
Okay.
And so it starts just with a snare drum solo, and by the end of the piece, it's just... Some people call it a big giant musical orgasm. I think that's whatever, but I think it's a great piece. A lot of people think it's overplayed, whatever. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Bolero is an amazing piece.
But it was the first or best example of that build?
It's a great example of that build because it literally starts with, like, you wanted me to say pianissimo, like a pianissimo snare drum solo. It's just like... And it's just like, where is that sound coming from? And it's just this snare drummer in the back being as restrained as humanly possible. And then by the end, like, the trombones are doing big portamentos, like, and it's just at the end, it's great.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
It just adds slowly. And there's all these cool videos you can see as the layers get added. Just you can watch all these visual representations.
It's like Smooth McGroove, Kyle.
Oh, Smooth McGroove. No, when was that written? Was it?
It was like 1910 or somewhere in there.
I think it was the music that Nintendo wanted to use for Zelda. But
really?
But I think it was written recently enough at the time that they couldn't use it, and that's why Koji Kondo, the rumor goes he wrote like the Zelda theme over the course of like a day or two because Bolero fell out and they weren't allowed to use that.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, I could be wrong about that, but I think that was the piece in particular.
It's very recently come into the public domain for much of the world, so that's quite possible. In fact, until very recently, Maurice Ravel was still the highest-grossing French musician ever, and it was because of that piece. Because it wasn't in the public domain yet, so he was still his family was getting all these royalties, or whoever runs his estate.
Yeah.
Right now.
So Nintendo, now's the time you can use it.
Yeah, exactly. Now use your Bolero.
Emily, I'm so glad you're here.
Oh,
you were the
thank you.
world's greatest guest for this episode. It is stupid how much you know about this and also Half-Life. It's insane how this worked out. Okay, let's see what you got, sir.
Well, I would like to introduce Bolero.
Very
I
smart.
was a little cheating because it just came into the public domain.
Your number one track is a licensed track that's in a game, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it actually came out this year, but it was in a game this year, so it counts.
Sure.
It is "Don't Be So Serious" by Low Roar
In Death Stranding.
in Death Stranding. Yes.
Okay,
as made famous by Death
That's right.
Stranding.
Honestly, yeah.
Here we go.
Heavy pulse, bloody eyes, sweaty clothes, the routine that I've learned to understand and know. Play my tricks, fragile mind, risk your head on me. Shut my eyes, I'm not here. There must be some mistake. Don't be so serious. so serious. Don't be so serious. Don't be so serious.
That was one of the games where I think, to me, it is so intrinsically tied to the moment.
Oh, 100%.
That it's in. Just because, like, I mean, for one, it is like the closest games have gotten to having like a True Detective style opening where like it's all these shots of like mountains and like all this like, you know, rough terrain basically, which is exactly what the game is about. It's about like taking a look at a landscape and seeing like, all right, here we go, and getting to the top and being like, oh, thank God, there's the outpost. Like that is what that game is about, and I think that intro sets it up so perfectly well, and I think that it also ties into, you know, some of the themes he gets across, because, you know, even though the chorus is like, don't be so serious, a lot of lyrics leading up to that, it's like, I think the thing he says right before that is like, I'm not here, there must be some mistake. So I think a lot of people say like, oh, don't be so serious, is Kojima telling people to ease off. Right. But I think it's the opposite of that, because I think that the chorus, I think, is the people telling him to not be so, like, don't be so serious. And he's like, no, I am fully gonna go into my bullcrap this time. Like this is
about life and death.
Like, this is me being very earnest. And when you get to the like, it cut, and like the actual themes of the story he's telling, it's like, no, you should worry about this right now. It's not like a thing that you can put off. It's people telling people, that's not a problem, don't worry about it. It's like him being like, no, this is at the forefront of what I'm thinking about, because it does feel to me so dire.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, on YouTube, here's reading the comments, a lot of Kojima love, and someone says, Hideo Kojima, the first dude to give credit to music artists as the song plays in the game. Which I don't know if that's technically true, but something amazing about that game, I don't know if you've started yet, Emily, but like, as the song starts playing, it'll just say song by, and like artist just like breaks the fourth wall, I guess, in that way, which is really cool.
MTV style.
Yeah, it really is.
And that game has like a lot of those moments of like the like what was the song in Red Dead?
Well, when you go into
Mexico.
The house building song?
Yeah. No, but it has a lot of those moments where you'll hear Alyx's song as you're making your journey to and then that's again when they'll show the artist and the name of the song, which is like a really cool touch.
For sure. It's something that Red Dead 2 didn't even do, and like Red Dead 2 clearly also fell in love with Red Dead 1's use of that music first time in Mexico, because like they layered so many songs and tried to recreate that moment so many times in Red Dead 2, but they don't put the artist on there. Like, that's a very Kojima movie. I love it.
That was the song that Hansen cut from my list.
Yeah.
You son of a bitch.
Well, we got it covered.
But yeah, just to reiterate what you said, like, when you start that game and like you start walking and that song kicks on, like I was instantly like, okay, I understand what I'm in for here. Like, I immediately understand what he's going for with this, because like the music coming up sort of also signifies like you don't have to worry about enemies right now. Like, you're just focused on moving forward. And yeah, I've been listening to that song a lot outside of the game for sure.
As much as you've been listening to this track?
No. Honestly, I've been listening to this one even more.
Okay, what is this?
This is from Sayonara Wild Hearts, which is like basically a video game pop album. I think that's how they described it. And this, which is the soundtrack's on Spotify. It's great. I love it. This is probably my favorite song and level from the game.
Called Mine.
Mine. But yeah, I mean, if you think about that song with like super colorful, like riding motorcycles high speed through a city and like fighting people and running along walls, like, it's so great. And like there's only like one track / level that I didn't love in that game, but like just the way the music and visuals all come together, like it's awesome. Like, I would recommend, just even if you don't play the game, listen to the soundtrack.
Well, that's my controversial question is, if you sign up for Apple Arcade, you get the first month free.
Yeah.
Is it, and then you can play Sayonara Wild Hearts. Is it just worth it above and beyond that, just to listen to the soundtrack?
Oh, well, I mean, you can do it on Spotify.
Yeah, you can do it on Spotify.
Okay.
But I mean, like, it's not a long game, because it's like, it's basically like, that's their terminology, calling it a pop album. It's a pop song. I think the full game you can get through in like 2 hours or so.
Right.
And it's like really good pace. Like it doesn't ever slow down. There's not a lot of reading or narrative, so you'd probably really be into it.
I mean, there's narrative. It's just not.
There is narrative,
not
yeah, but
explicit.
it's not spoken or anything.
I almost had they have a cover of Claire de Lune on there.
Yes,
which is a song that I think has gotten in my mind just because I think a lot of video games use it. I think The Evil Within
was also
used it as their safe point.
It was recently used in the Watchmen TV show, which was like a weird moment of like, oh, it's that song from Sayonara.
They're ripping them off. But yeah, I played through that game a couple times and I really enjoyed that soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's just finding one that didn't feel so like, well, you kind of have to play it to get the most out of it in the context.
And it was tough for me to pick one, but I think that song, Mine, is my favorite. Yeah.
Nice. My favorite track, I started with Kingdom Hearts 3, which was unexpected. My final track, I promise no one could ever guess from the game. A game that I did not play much of, but I see love in the comments every once in a while for Ace Combat 7. Ace Combat 7 came out this year. Sky's Unknown, as everybody knows. This song is called Charge Assault. Real quick. It's the first level in the game, by the way. Charge Assault, Ace Combat 7. Imagine being in a jet as you're hearing that music. It's very Harry Gregson Williams, I realize, which is why I love it.
I was just about to say, it's very Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, yes. And like that storyline is so dramatic, too. It's just like the perfect soundtrack throughout that entire game.
Yeah, early on, it definitely sounds like if Hans Zimmer composed the Stranger Things theme.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be like Batman music, for sure. And then it just builds to this whole other level. Yeah, but that's apparently, I'm going to blow it, Keiki Kobayashi, who also composed like Tekken 6, Street Fighter 5, and Star Fox Zero.
Star Fox Zero.
I need to go back and listen to that soundtrack
Bandai
now.
Namco games, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Developed.
Yeah, so it must be some sort of in-house composer for there. But Ace Combat 7. Also, Daredevil from the soundtrack's very good, too. Emily, any other judgments for our tracks?
I thought those are all great.
Oh, good.
You know, I haven't played a lot of those games. I need to play Outer Worlds. I want to play Death Stranding. I haven't played either of those.
That's fine.
So, yeah.
No judgment here.
Love it. Yeah.
Thank you for your expertise.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
On all fronts.
Yeah.
What would you like to plug? You have so many podcasts and radio shows and everything under the sun. Oh, before you get to the plugs, though.
Yeah.
You've done radio for how long?
It's been almost 15 years now. Yeah.
What advice do you have for sounding better? Not technically, but you have such a good radio voice. When you hear us talk, do you think, this is what they're blowing?
No, not you guys. No.
What's like the greatest radio tips you've learned about how to...
Well, be yourself is one of the hardest things. Well, actually, even better, because that's just cheesy, stupid advice that we should always do anyway.
Okay, so don't be yourself.
Well,
Got it.
Don't be yourself. But one of the things I think people tend to struggle with, especially on podcasts, is, you know, when you're talking to someone, you're talking to a person. Talk to a person. Don't say, hey, everyone, you know, blah, 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 because people like to feel
Like they're the sole focus.
Yeah,
Like they have the earbuds
it's just
in.
they're the person listening to you. You know,
Right.
It's not like a collective people in an auditorium or anything listening to you all at the same time.
interesting.
There's one person listening. Even in radio, when we know there are more than one person listening to you at a time, you still really just try and talk to one person, and it actually makes it easier to kind of then relax and kind of act naturally in conversation, because if you can imagine yourself speaking to one person. You know.
That's the most practical advice I've ever heard in my life.
There
That's
you
very
go.
helpful. Okay, what would you like to plug? What rank your shows?
Well, let's not do that. They're all very important in very different ways, and they all allow me to follow musical loves in different ways. My day job is I work at the jazz station in town, which is 88.5 for those in the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
And I do the morning show, so I'm on the air from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., spinning some sweet, hot jazz,
That sounds
which
very
I
fun.
actually love and studied quite heavily in college. So I get to do that, which is really fun. And I do a lot of interviews on that show, which is super fun, too. I have some regular rotating guests. I get to talk to the state climatologist every Tuesday morning, which is super fun. And his name is Luigi, which is even better.
Oh, that's the best.
Luigi Romolo, state climatologist for Minnesota. Yep.
Friend of the show.
So that's super fun, radio gig, and that is my 40-hour-a-week full-time, earlier than anyone should ever have to get up job. I've been up since 3:45.
Oh my God.
Especially when we have crappy weather. And then I do 2 podcasts. I do Level with Emily Reese, which is the video game audio-themed show. And
a lot
then
of interviews with the composers.
loads of interviews with composers and other people who create audio for games. And we have a Patreon. Level with Emily is on Patreon.
I'm amazed you got
and-
patreon.com/level. That's a good URL.
Well, we've been on there forever.
Yeah.
You know, we just are bad at it. I mean, we're not bad. We publish a show almost every week. It's not that. It's just, we're. So yeah, patreon.com/level is that. And then at patreon.com/scores and pours is my other podcast, Scores and Pours, where I talk about classical music with a really great friend of mine who is a sommelier, which is a person who's like expert in wine and beer and spirits. And so we pick some kind of theme like, the ocean. How is the music depicted? How do composers depict water in music? And I'll talk about that. And then she'll talk about how vineyards by the sea, you can taste the salt in the wine because, the air evaporates and lands on, Or we'll talk about, we just recorded our New Year's Eve episode, so she talks about the history of sparkling wine and champagne and Prosecco and all of that. And I
And
talk
are you a
about,
couple bottles in at this point for recording? Is that typically how it goes?
Sometimes we'll go so far as to drink a half a bottle, but half the
Okay.
time she's spitting it out. She does it for a living. So while I will guzzle and be like, bleh, bleh, she's pretty good about spitting it out because she often will then go on to some other appointment at some distillery or brewery and help
Sure.
them choose their whatever. And so she's tasting that stuff all day. But Scores and Pours, it's super fun. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for swinging by the studio. I should say the
Thanks
basement.
so much,
We really
guys.
appreciate
It was
it.
awesome to hear a bunch of your music and get to see your setup, and I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, be sure to let the world know when your Half-Life stuff is released.
Will do.
That's going to be super exciting to hear.
Yes, of course.
Awesome. Great. All right, let's move on to some thanks. Hey, Jeff Archifaba, thanks for joining us.
Hey!
Replacing Emily Reese. Welcome,
That's
sir.
right.
I'm glad to have you. You know what's coming up? The end of the month. Not only is it Thanksgiving today, but end of the month is coming up, which means we got a whole new wave of potential Patreon support, and things are going to be refreshing. I just wanted to remind people of the options, patreon.com/MinnMax2Ns. If you support us at any level, you get access to the Discord, which I should do a better job of promoting to the public because I think it is a great place. There's so many channels for every different game interest. Like someone started a parenting channel, a place to meet up, find people to play games with. It's Shangri-La.
I brought up, there's a tabletop gaming channel
Yeah.
in there. I brought up that Target had just one because we were talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to have it on sale. And then I went to Target and it was the only game at Target that was sold out. And I was like, do we have that many people in Minneapolis that they... And then so I had to go to a different Target and there was only... I got the last copy at that Target.
Do you know what?
So word is out, my friend.
When I bought that game, I called my favorite tabletop shop here in Northeast, All Systems Go, and I said, hey, do you have any copies of Just One left? It just won the Spiel des Jahres. And the guy said, we have just one. They have just one left
Beautiful.
of just one, the game that just won. Spiel des Jahres.
Maybe that's the marketing for it. They just send one copy to every store. Very expensive.
That would be very fun.
But other people were also posting their pictures that they got
Oh, awesome.
after listening to us. So it is a very lively place to chat and post pictures of stuff that you like.
And that's the MinnMax Discord. Support us at any level on Patreon. You get access to it. In addition to being able to submit questions or comments for the show, and then exclusive content, audio feeds for a lot of YouTube videos and stuff like that. We just posted Min Snacks yesterday. Serial, how did that go for you?
It was up and down in terms of the food that I ate, but I enjoyed filming it and I had fun.
Is that right? I'm very impressed because it was a tall order to be like, all right, Serial, and go. Eat s'mores on camera. And we're going to blindfold you and feed you mystery s'mores while 3 essentially strangers were over, like helping out with it. And you did a very good job.
Thank you.
It is very funny. It is my favorite thing we've produced so far.
I feel like we also learned a lot about Serial's eating habits.
Well, that's the twist, is that you think it's a review show about s'mores and turns into a review show of Serial's life. So please check out Min Snacks on our YouTube channel. But I wanted to point out something that we don't think we've mentioned too much on the podcast, which is there is a Patreon tier where we'll play games with you. And one generous soul named Michael has signed up for it. And so it's like, okay, you can choose any of us to play a game for an hour online. Let us know what you want to play. And so Michael supported us in a very generous way. So thank you to Michael. And then he's like, all I want to do, Hanson, is I want to play StarCraft 2 with you. And my heart melted. Like, out of any game, I would love to play StarCraft 2 with a Patreon supporter. So a reminder, that's still out there for other folks if you want to sign up and support us in a big bad way and then choose who you want to play with and what game we play. That's a really unique one that I don't think we've communicated enough. Otherwise, $400 tier. We will give you, your company, your little startup, whatever you want us to plug, we'll plug it. Like this, for example, Beaten Down Brian. He's the man. He tweeted the other day a picture of his wonderful farm in Ireland of just a beautiful dog and a bunch of cows. It's like, he has such a unique life. Beaten Down Brian, check him out on Twitter. Also, Richard Mady, our first game developer who signed up to plug a game called To the Top. It's a VR platforming game that brings old school challenge with new school tech. Official PlayStation Magazine gave it a 9 out of 10. It's available now on PlayStation VR, Steam, and Oculus Home. And as Richard Mady insists that we scream, To the top!
At different cadences.
Honestly, thank you so much, Richard. I'm so glad that our first game that we're plugging, thanks to your support here, is not a stinker. So To the Top on VR. It came out a little while ago, but it's still out there and still looking very good. And in an episode where we talk about Half-Life VR, in my mind, not really, but in my mind, it's Half-Life Alyx, the number 2, To the Top. All right. Congratulations. Thank you so much, Richard, for supporting us in a big way.
Yeah.
Everybody else wrote in with some wonderful questions. We posted on Patreon, patreon.com/MinnMax, 2 N's. And everybody leaves some very smart comments and questions along the way. So thanks to everybody for writing in. We really appreciate it. First one, Yarrow writes in. The dangerous Yarrow says, hey, everybody. I'm currently thinking about moving to have a change of pace from small town living. I understand Minneapolis isn't the biggest city out there, but I feel like a city that size is appealing to me. I currently live in a town about 1/8 the size of Minneapolis. What are some things you guys like and don't like about living in Minneapolis? Great question. What I love is
start with,
I love the Bauhaus Brewery, especially on Monday, December 9th at 8 p.m. for the first MinnMax community meetup. Please swing by. We'll glad hand you something fierce. I love the scale of Minneapolis. You say like, oh, it's not the biggest city out there. It's like, how big do you need? It's got everything you need. It still feels like an underdog. I think that's probably my favorite thing. Is I think it's a really great place to live, not too expensive, and I feel like, just by talking about it on a podcast, I feel like it's under the radar of just like, it's not quite an Austin, in terms of getting out there and drawing so much attention, but I feel like it's worthy of being damn near that level, right? And it's just like, I feel like the world underestimates how cool it is to live in Minneapolis.
Also, we have nature here, which is nice. Like even in Northeast, you don't have to go way out into the suburbs to actually see trees and have parks and stuff like that.
Number one biking city in the
everywhere.
States.
Yep.
Yep, it's awesome. Yes?
I was going to go on to dislikes.
Please.
Oh, there's a free zoo here, which is always my
Yeah,
quick,
I really hate the free zoo. That's
No, I wanted to get in a good
Liberate
thing.
the monkeys.
I want to get a good thing in. That blew my mind when I first moved here, that there was a zoo and it's free.
Yeah,
crazy.
Como.
The zoos, the walking trails, everything like that is very nice.
Now, what do you hate?
The thing that I did not like today was having to shovel out all of our cars because we got the first snow, which I feel like we can't even complain about it too much because it's almost the end of November.
Yeah.
Which anytime that you make it this far into November without breaking your back shoveling is probably a good sign.
Hell yeah.
I feel
And
like the
I'd
trade-off is that we end up getting snow later into the season. So
Yes, that is definitely.
the seasons are basically just
But I'm so
changing.
happy it
winter is
snowed.
here now, but
It snowed before Thanksgiving, and I love that. I hate having just a dead brown
yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Or
I want
Christmas.
Yo, that's the worst.
It does not feel like Christmas.
Christopher Reardon writes in and says, if you looked in the capture album on one of your consoles, what percentage of photos would be mistakes because you hit the wrong button? On Switch,
a lot on
probably
Switch, yeah.
5%.
Probably higher, especially if you're using
Really?
the Pro Controller.
That's
I
what he
always hit
says. He
that.
says
Yeah.
for Switch, it's about 40% oopsies playing with the Pro Controller.
Yeah, it's
40%
probably like
oopsies.
20. I'd probably say 20%.
Yeah. What is in your photo gallery for systems other than the Switch?
A lot of glitches. We had a Game and Farcer joke that a couple of years ago that button that it just got renamed to the capture glitch button because that's the main thing people use it for is just capture. Like even when they first announced it, I remember the marketing was like they had Xbox. What was
Xbox record that?
Xbox record that, and they had a video of like these two guys like playing Call of Duty, and they like experienced this amazing set piece moment, and they looked at each other, and they're like, "Whoa, Xbox record that!" And I'm like, no one's recording cutscenes, like they're recording stupid stuff that happens, and I love it for that.
Especially
like-
now, because like they give you the oh, you can't record this, you can't record right now in
Yeah.
cutscene, so it's like whatever.
Yeah.
It is the super damning compilation of a buggy game.
Exactly,
button.
yes, yeah.
There were a couple times when I did that with like Homefront when I was reviewing it, where it's like, I was like investigative journalist, like I have to record all of this and like lay it out.
Yeah.
It makes it very easy to shine a light on the bad stuff. But I take a lot of pictures now in just when a game is very, like visually stunning and stuff like that. It's like instead of just stopping to look at the skybox, I will also snap a picture because they're huge, very nice looking pictures.
That's
at
true.
this point.
Maybe we can make a show about it later, Kyle. But with the Nintendo Switch, I found myself, it's just so easy. I will hit that all the time just for because I want to take a trip down nostalgia lane of like, oh, that's right, this section in Pokemon. Like anytime there's like something odd that I think I'm going to forget about and how different it is for a game on Switch, I'll just spam that button. I'll smash that button.
Yeah,
everybody.
Pokemon has also where you can record 30 seconds of footage, which is nice.
I never
Not
used
all
that.
games do
It's
that.
so inconsistent though. It's
Yeah.
like some
Smash you
yeah,
can't, which
some
is like the-
first party games even. Yeah.
The Smash Brothers should be like the one. I don't know.
Yeah.
Also with the accidental pictures though are the ones that like the automatically I'm going to take a picture because of your trophy. Like you've got a
yeah,
trophy.
that's
It's
a lot.
always
That's like
you go back
10%.
in it and it's like this is just a black screen with a little bar up
yep,
here
yep.
that says it's taking a picture. Like, why are
The
you doing
memories.
this?
I actually
Yes.
framed that.
No, yeah.
Steve Bamdad says, with Link's Awakening coming out this year and Let's Go Pikachu Eevee last year, assuming Nintendo continues this trend, which there's nothing to indicate they will, what original Game Boy games would you like to see get the same treatment in 2020? P.S. I hope it's Wario Land 2. What a very
Should make
specific
a
request.
Tetris remake. With the new art style where all the Tetris pieces look like dolls or whatever. and it's-
Dolls. Yeah.
Dioramas.
I think I'd love to see like a Mario Land
Mario Land 1.
Super Mario
But
Land.
be like faithful to how weird that game
freaky
is.
as
Yeah.
hell.
Like,
Yeah.
don't just use the recent new Super Mario Brothers art and like remake
Right.
those levels. Like, it needs to look way different than
Yep.
the modern art.
And
if it-
just have like an orchestral version of that soundtrack, which is one of the best Mario soundtracks of all time,
Yeah.
I think.
What if it just looked like the clay cover of Nintendo Power, where they had like
Yeah,
Mario on the
sure.
cover, and it's very
the
stop
reverse
motion-y.
colors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be into that. Yeah.
Fun fact, the theme for the MinnMax show, the one that Grant Kirkhope generously composed, when asked for examples of what we wanted it to sound like, I sent him Mudo Kingdom from Super Mario Land because I love that track so much. Of like not 8-bit, but something like this. So if you can hear any connection there, that was the one track that I sent to him was Mudo Kingdom. Let's see. They could remake a game which I just bought off Amazon to hopefully stream at some point, which is the Animorphs Game Boy game in the back there. That'll
Doesn't
be
it-
fun.
Isn't there something cool about that? It's like Pokemon-ish, right?
It's a Pokemon clone
Oh,
for Game
that's
Boy
crazy.
Color, and I've never played it. I can't wait
I
to
would
dive
like.
in.
I know he said Wario Land 2, but I'm a big Wario Land 1 guy. I would love to see Wario Land 1.
Yeah?
Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Land 3, Wario Land.
They should just have the. I was gonna say they should make the Mario Land trilogy as the remake, but then that gets confusing because then
one of them's Wario Land.
right, and then that starts the quadrilogy.
Then it's the Yoshi's Island debate all over again.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on a second. You
Yes, sir.
skimmed over the part of the Animorphs game where you're capturing people
Humans.
who turn into animals.
No, you're touching the. No, the entire point is you touch the animal, then you can become the animal. So it's like the way I imagine it works is that you go up and fight a tiger or whatever.
And then you touch it.
Who is a
Touch it,
person.
and one of the options is touch it.
Okay, so you're fighting a human being who's transformed into a tiger.
No,
and
it's like an actual tiger, and you're an animorph. And
Oh,
you touch
okay.
the tiger, you can become the tiger.
But you're still going out and fighting animals for the purposes of.
We don't
turning
have to
into
kill
them?
him. You just got to touch him.
Can you touch a person and then turn into that person?
I don't remember. I know for sure that an alien, an Andalite, touches a human, and then he can turn into a human. But I don't know if you can do the
But
same
is
species.
it that exact person? Are you like a clone of that person at
Yes.
that point?
I would love to
Correct.
see the cover of an Animorphs book. That was one person, then it does the page into another person.
When does that exist?
That's basically an app at this point,
Can you
right?
stock up in Animorphs? Can you just keep touching a million animals and just
Yeah.
have like a database of...
Yep,
You have to
100%.
send, Do you have to send them to a PC?
You do.
Your
We'll find out when we
transformations? Okay.
potentially stream the Animorphs game
No,
on
there's
Game
no
Boy.
other way. We have to ask you these questions now.
James Smith says, "Hey, Minnie Mousers." By the way, I know that Mike is a problem. Hey, Minnie Mousers, what has been the most devastating video game cancellation for you? Games like Star Wars 1313. Oh, we just took another look at that. Scalebound and StarCraft Ghost were taken from us too soon, but which one hurt each of you the most? Relive your suffering for our amusement. You got it, James.
Perfect.
I have one. Devastating is too strong a word, but there was EGM had like a big E3 roundup one year, Electronic Game Monthly, and they had a thumbnail, very small screenshot of a Cowboy Bebop game, and it was like Spike Spiegel like just doing a kick, and I looked at it and it's like, if I'm being honest, like it's not like I looked at it and I thought, wow, that's going to be an amazing game. It was just that I was at like peak Cowboy Bebop fandom. And I was like, I would love to play a Spike Spiegel, and then that game just evaporated. I've never seen anything else. It was officially canceled at some point, but in terms of like screenshots and stuff like that, I've only seen that one that was in EGM print. I don't think I know you're googling it right now, but I don't think I've ever even found that screenshot online.
Oh, really? No, I was
Yeah.
looking to. I've never checked out a Cowboy Bebop game. They had a PlayStation game and a PlayStation 2 game.
I wonder if it was that game, the PS2 game there, that
Yeah.
maybe they were bringing it to America, and the cancellation was that it never got localized. Maybe so. Maybe I should go play it. Like,
Yeah.
That's a very good wrong answer, Kyle.
Yeah, please take it
The
away.
correct
Joe.
answer is Rockstar's agent, right? Even though it hasn't officially been canceled, but I so wanted to play a spy Rockstar game that I just fantasized was going to be like an amazing open world Grand Theft Auto game, but with spies, and gadgets and all that stuff that they probably wouldn't put in anyway. But
Yeah, that's
that
a
would
rough
have been
one.
cool.
I think for me, it's still StarCraft Ghost.
Yeah.
Totally.
So I like the idea of here's this world that you've only imagined as like, because the scale of all the different units is very strange. Where it's like here's what is in cutscenes this ginormous robot that is scaled down to not be that much bigger than a Marine, and seeing what the actual scale of all the units was and what the interiors of a lot of the buildings were like. That was really cool seeing that story in Game Informer.
Yeah.
And then hearing that it got canceled was a huge bummer.
It's such a double whammy then this year when Jason Schreier over Kotaku revealed that they were making another first-person StarCraft game that was like Battlefield that also got canceled. It's like, oh my God, I just want to see it.
Just
I want
make
them to
one.
do something new. Grizzled Gaming says, "Hi, gents. I started a MinnMax PlayStation community and PX Sausage started a MinnMax Xbox club. It's pretty easy to get lost in the shuffle on Discord, so we were hoping you might give them a plug to help get the word out to the greater community. Just search MinnMax, 2 N's of course, on either platform. At the moment, they are the only result. So if you see the logo and Hansen's smiling face, which is a PlayStation exclusive, that's it. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, you can only smile on PlayStation now, right?
That's true. I think that's how it works. Now, we're pretty good at just exhausting all possible dumb puns and jokes here, but Muffin Crumbs writes in and says, "Do you Ben Reeves in Life After Love?" Which is something I don't think I've ever considered.
Okay.
I really don't think I'm strong enough for that.
I really don't think Imran Khan enough. Shuffle Guy says, "Dear Ben and community, 2 N's, how do NDAs work? I get that you can't talk about all the stuff in the game until a certain point, but how is it written down in reality?"
To talk about it a little bit, like a lot of it is less formal than you might imagine. Like for reviews and stuff, it's less of like a sign this legal document and more of a look, don't talk about the game. You know, like make sure that you're following along with these guidelines.
But typically it's like the email that sends you the code.
Yeah, it'll
from
have
PR.
like red text. Don't talk about it until like 8 a.m. Pacific, which is 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. our time. And they'll have like various like don't stream until this date. Don't talk. You can say you have the game during this date, and then you can talk about your full review at this point. Please don't spoil things until a couple days later or whatever.
Here's the score you should give it.
Right. Don't talk about anything about after chapter whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually they'll say something like that. Occasionally you'll get one that's like, these are spoilers that you shouldn't mention. And then it's like, well, I'm just not going to read that because I'm just starting to review it. Why are you doing this?
And
But
sometimes it'll be
weird
restrictions about like, don't tell people about this item. And it's like, that's the double jump. Like, why would you, who?
And the king obviously is Nintendo.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the NDAs with Nintendo are
Complicated.
insane. And like specifically like Link's Awakening or remakes.
It's funny. I didn't see Link's Awakening.
Oh, it's like they're like, don't talk about the ending of the game. Don't reveal these things about Link's Awakening. It's like, so then how do you talk about it on the podcast? Like, obviously we don't want to go out every way to spoil it, but it's like, if you want to talk about something that they NDA to be like, boy, I remember in the original game it was like this. You know, it's like there's so many stupid loopholes. Or like,
Their video stuff is also really weird too. Where it's like you can't have more than like X number of like length of individual clips, so you have to string a bunch of them together instead of like,
and
hey,
I
here's
think
we're
it's
gonna
been
go
whittling
from
it down. Where it's like clips have to be shorter than 5 minutes, and then there's some where it's like they can be 30 seconds of continuous footage. Where it's like, well, what does that mean? Can I take a 2-second break in between these? It's just a mess.
It's it's always more complicated than it probably needs to be. Because we're happy to abide by like, don't talk about anything up to this point.
Yeah,
like, that's all we need really. But Nintendo goes super in detail.
They're having a good time over there, no doubt about it. Let's see. Two Button Crew
TBC
says, what is one modification to a game controller that you would pay $20 to have done?
Oh, see, I didn't. The way you pitched it on in the Slack channel was that like, here's a small mod that you made to your controller. But I've paid a lot of money to like dual mod my hitbox, which was so basically let it play on every console, and that's a thing that I did at EVO, which is really cool to do. But that was like the big one that I spent a lot of money on.
And what is the hitbox?
The hitbox is like if you imagine an arcade stick, except you replace the actual stick with 4 buttons, and so it's sort of mapped to where if you remember like being able to press spacebar to jump. That's where the up button is, so it's very like a PC centered layout, and it works really well.
And so that's what helps you cheat at fighting games?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a turbo button?
Cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You disgust me.
The one you've brought up a lot. How much would you pay to get a headphone jack on the Switch Pro controller?
$20 sounds about right, honestly. If I could give it to some guy and say like, hey, for $20 I will put a headphone jack into this thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I would do that.
We had like a Game Informer. We were lining up an interview with Reggie Fils-Aimé. And I remember you jokingly being like, "Can you please ask him to get a headphone jack?"
Yes,
that's
controller? Like that controller is like surprisingly, it's maybe the best controller they've made, like in the modern era. But like the fact that thing does not have a headphone jack, that's like the only piece of functionality it doesn't have,
Yeah.
and it's
funny.
like crazy because like the fact that they're like either you do it wirelessly or you have to plug in a thing in the console, like a headphone jack in the console, and expect to be able to listen to it on a TV. That's like, what are you doing? Like, why would you do? Like, do they not? Yeah, they should do that. They should have release a version of that controller.
For $20, I would love to take like the dog head, this basic Switch grip, and just move it out like 3 inches, just to the width of a PS4 controller. Because I don't mind that thing. I don't have a Pro controller. But which is insane, I realize. But like, it's just a little too cozy, little too tight.
There's the Hori. Well, it only works on the actual thing, but there's like a Hori pad that makes it basically puts half of a Xbox size controller on each side.
Oh, I have
which is a little big. But
the Satisfy grip. Yeah, when I'm playing handheld, it is amazing. Like I think it feels so good, and so I almost prefer to play that just for comfort. It's better than playing with the dog head. You know.
I mean, there's also like a ton of like GameCube. Basically, if you want to play with a GameCube controller on the Switch, you can do that. Like, I think I have one.
I got the USB thingy, so if I wanted to do that, I could do that. Bob Buell, simple question. Who is the best Batman? All performances are eligible.
Best Batman.
Catwoman?
Catwoman. I mean, I like Kevin Conroy and Christian Bale.
Okay. Now, I love Kevin Conroy. Don't take this the wrong way. But he's dinged a little bit in this criteria. Just he has an easier job performing Batman than a film star, right?
Yeah. I mean, he was one of the first to kind of treat Batman as like two separate characters. You know what I mean? And Bruce Wayne, which is kind of interesting. Like to really lean into that a lot. I mean, I guess Keaton did too. But
he's kind of just an oddball both ways, which is what's fun.
Maybe I don't know. I don't think it's controversial, but I'm really excited to see Robert Pattinson as Batman. I think like when that was announced, I was like, that sounds great. I'm 100% on board with that. I think that's going to be awesome.
What about him?
I think he's just like he's just kind of that, like he's taken that Leonardo DiCaprio route of acting, of just like I did this like big crowd pleasing thing. I have a lot of fans, young fans, but like I'm just gonna do what I want and be an oddball and like play crazy people in movies. And I think he's a really good actor. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm excited for that movie. What was that?
The Irishman?
The Batman, I think it's called.
Is it called The Batman?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was called The Irishman.
The Irishman.
It's out on Netflix.
Who's the best Irishman?
Oh gosh, where do you start?
The guy from American Gods.
No, it's the
plays
Lucky
Leprechaun.
Charms guy.
Yeah,
His name's Kyle
His
Hilliard.
performance made me cry. I don't know. Like I think I do like Kevin Conroy a lot, and I kind of like Robert Pattinson just because he looks like the I don't remember his name, but the kid who stars as Batman in Batman Beyond. He kind of reminds me of
Terry
him.
McGinnis.
Yeah. He kind of reminds me of that, but I don't know. I guess I haven't watched a lot of like the old school Batman.
Yeah.
Because there's like Michael Keaton is like where my cutoff point is, and then before that it's just like Adam West, I guess.
Maybe I'm a weird. I even thought Ben Affleck was a pretty solid Batman. Even the movie wasn't great.
I didn't mind him at all.
Yeah, I mean like Val Kilmer and George Clooney are not great, but I feel like everyone else has done good performances as that character.
Yeah, you're just a bat. I just remembered.
Yeah, exactly.
On Kevin Conroy, he might get his due, and I'll take it all back because he's actually playing a live-action Batman.
That's right. Yeah.
On the CW, The Crisis on Infinite Earths, where they're bringing in like Brandon Routh to be a different version of Superman and stuff. Like, so just pulling all that stuff. Like, I've watched a couple episodes of The Flash, even though I didn't understand who the character was. But like that's about it. But like I do kind of want to watch that big crossover. It seems super fun.
Did you see that scene where he's reading a Sonic comic book?
No, that sounds great. The crossover we all deserve.
Finally, something I can relate to.
Yeah. Okay.
That hedgehog, I can relate to that guy. He wants to go fast, and so do I.
He's got Tood, and he likes chili dogs.
Hey, speaking of Tood, Remy Bach writes in and says, "What about calling your supporters Toons? As in, better than Edgar Vasquez's 2 N's, which is a disaster."
I think he said tuners, right?
Tuners.
Yeah, Toons is not bad.
Like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
It's exactly what I'm going for, yeah. Because, like, Minions, I like that's catching on. At the same time, something about, like, calling people who support you, who are technically giving us life, like, our minions feels gross to me. So in my mind, it's like, well, what if we flip that? And we were the minions, and then they were the ministry, you know?
The ministry?
Yeah.
But then you call them all ministers, which gets very confused. Because then it's like, oh, so where does this thing? It's like, oh, I like to call myself a minister. Like, well, you can't just call yourself that.
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Someday.
Good job, Toons. Chris Bartlett says, "Hi, MinnMax. What is your sweet spot for game length in an RPG? Some of my favorite RPGs are 100-hour epics, yet I found myself avoiding Persona 5 since it came out, even though it's right up my alley, because I know it's insanely long and it's hard to fit in my gaming schedule. What is the sweet number for an RPG?"
It's a great question.
Like Dragon Quest 11, I think I beat it in 55 hours, and that was on the shorter end because I didn't even do all the post-game stuff, and that surpassed my tolerance even at 55. I think like 35 hours is a real sweet spot for an RPG.
30, 40.
30, 40.
Yeah, I'd say that it depends. I'm willing to go longer if it's more focused on story as opposed to the open world kind of format where it's just like, okay, you can do everything, and realistically, I'm just never going to finish it because it's so long. But if it's kind of a more directed like Mass Effect experience, then I would be willing to go longer on that. You know?
I feel like the structure has a lot to do with it. Whereas I think if like Fava said, the structure is very open of like, oh, here you're kind of here, and it's up to you to figure out where to go. I think that I have a shorter tolerance for that than like Persona 5 and even Fire Emblem are games where you're not like doing one thing for a long time. Aside from battles, it's very much cut up into a lot of very tiny pieces. Where in Persona you're like, okay, now I'm going to do this on this day, and now I'm going to do this on this day. So it makes it feel like it's going by a lot faster than it might otherwise would.
Yeah.
And same thing with Fire Emblem, where you're going through the months, and it's like, okay, I did my weekly thing, and now I'm going to advance a couple days, and everyone's going to learn. So
yeah. Travis Lehman, you ready for this? Mm-hmm. He says, "No comment, just sending love." from Travis in Las Vegas. So
Chill.
You all want to
nice.
take a moment just to
Yeah.
appreciate the love
Just
that
vibe.
Travis is sending?
Nice, Travis.
Am I the only one who closed my eyes?
No, I'm
we-
closing
we're
my
not-
eyes.
We're supposed to
No,
close our
you
eyes?
weren't.
I will now.
Oh, he did close his eyes. That's good. I cheated.
Good job, Travis. Do you ever never mind.
Probably not.
ever close your
DBRG
eyes?
Dr. Big.
13. Dr. Big. This is a humdinger. I don't know why this one hit me so hard. Hey, MinnMax henchman. Thank you. I have a very anticlimactic story for you. So a couple weeks ago, I went to Comic-Con in San Antonio. My main reason for being there was to get a photo op with Rob Whitehoff. Somebody you know? Name sound familiar?
Arthur Morgan?
The voice of John Marston.
That was close.
When I was allowed into the booth, I was able to talk with him for a bit due to being the last person in line. Aside from telling him how big of a fan I was, I mentioned a podcast that my friends were starting up called MinnMax. We are your friends, Dr. Big. I couldn't tell if he was genuinely intrigued or if he's just an incredibly nice guy. I was about to ask him if he could do a fun little intro for MinnMax as I pulled my phone out of my pocket, but a staff member yelled to me that there were no phones allowed. When I was leaving the booth, he apologized and told me, "Good luck on the podcast." It would have been a pretty cool surprise. I think he was just being very nice to you, but that's
Yeah.
very sweet for you
No,
to
it's cool. It's a good story.
imagine. John Marston, the character, I'm just presuming,
Yeah.
has heard of MinnMax. How fun is that?
Yeah.
That is cool.
And he says, "Good luck on the podcast." I think we all know what that sounds like. So really, want to do your best, John Marston.
No, I don't.
wanna
Like,
take a
I feel
stab
like
at it?
my impersonation of him would sound very raspy, but that's not
Yeah.
the right take.
It's always like a half yell, so it's like a "Good luck on the podcast," right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
That was pitch perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think that was
Anybody?
good. I think that was good.
All right.
I think you nailed it. I don't think we can do any better
Really?
than that.
Trevor, just like that house. Trevor Corbin says, "Minions!" I finished up Fallen Order this past weekend. I had a ton of fun with the game, but I found myself becoming very frustrated toward the end of the game, specifically with some of the last few bosses. My main frustration came from the fact that I was only able to heal 3 times during those encounters, which led to a lot of deaths. I noticed in a video that Serial posted to Twitter that he had 10 healing items, and I realized I had completely forgotten about the fact I could get more healing items by searching chests. Do any of you have similar experiences where you forgot or completely neglected a game mechanic that made the game a lot more frustrating, less fun than it should have been?
Real quick, I do want to say that that specific problem was something that I had until the last few hours of the game, because the game very much withholds a lot of those towards the back half until like there's a point in the game where I was following the main line and you end up getting like 3 in a row very quickly, like without having to do any real backtracking, and then the rest you do have to go. But there's definitely like that rough period where they deny you a lot of that stuff unless
Yeah.
you go looking for it. But
Gotcha. And but we should point out we have a Max Spoilers episode hosted by Jeff from All About Jedi Fallen Order on our YouTube channel, or if you're a supporter on Patreon for $5,
I
you can
did
listen
it
to it.
somehow.
that's the face of a guy who did something.
Yes,
Posted
that's
it, man.
confidence, baby.
I always think back to Mass Effect 1, not realizing that, how is it, that the Mako has a rocket launcher, I think it was. Like, I was just using the machine gun in the Mako for those pretty crappy sequences where you have to, like, go around and shoot things, and it just took forever, and it was so lame because it, they popped it up on the screen probably, and I just missed it because I'm very stupid. And so trying to finish all that with just the machine gun sucked.
It didn't detract. It didn't make the game worse by any means, but because it was Resident Evil, and it was Resident Evil 4, every time I picked up a gem or a diamond or something along those lines, I was like, okay, this is probably something I need to slot into a door at some point to open it. So like it wasn't until the very end of the game that I realized I could sell all that stuff. And then so I was able to finish the game with like this massive amount of ammo and weapons that I acquired like during the last like 2 or 3 hours of the
That's
game.
so satisfying.
But it didn't make it almost made the rest of the game like more scary and fun because ammo was more scarce for me.
Yeah.
My answer, which I think I've talked about in our first Jedi conversation, is just I'm very bad when games give you the option to parry stuff. It's not that I don't know that the system's there, but I just don't
Right.
engage in it a lot.
Yeah.
If I have both a parry and a dodge, I always lean into the dodge. And, if there are one-hit attacks that you can do on enemies, like those stupid spiders in Star Wars, like I just never, really figured that out, and it makes it much harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went through most of Bloodborne without really using guns much. And you kind of need them for a couple of bosses. Like I beat Father Gascoigne by using the gun, but after that it didn't feel really natural. It felt like you have to implement it in your game plan. So I went most of that game without using guns, and then at the end, like most of the tips that I was getting about bosses were like, you should be using guns more often. So.
Tim Laro, does Sony name its next console after the PlayStation 5? Yeah, this is what the kids are talking about. Is forget the PlayStation 5, but the next console, do they name it the PlayStation 6? At what point does the number get too high? I think Sony will have to pivot to future-proof or something.
I think it'll be PlayStation 6, but I don't think they're wrong to say that the number will be too high. I feel like Sony will get nervous if they're getting into like double digits and stuff.
But I bet at the PlayStation 2, they would have said PlayStation 5 is too high, but would have changed it. But then when you get to that point, it's like, all right, come up with something better. I don't think they ever will. Right?
I think they've established the precedence here where calling it anything else would be like the equivalent of like, oh, this is a different machine. It's not the next version. It's like oh, is this your VR thing? Is this your like 3D thing? Is it some offshoot of the PlayStation brand versus like PS6? Okay, you very clearly communicated that this is the next iteration of that platform.
Yeah, it's like the Wii U situation where it's like, what is this? Is it a side grade that I'm getting?
Everyone thought that you bought the tablet and used it with your Wii, and that was a problem.
There was a story in October of Sony filing trademarks for PlayStation 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Because they obviously have to get to 9, because that was the commercial for the PlayStation 2, where it's like orb on the highway or
so
whatever.
11 is the cutoff. They're not going to...
That's right. Okay. 11 is right out.
Because they're going to be like, everyone's going to think it's PlayStation 1, and we can't have that.
I think... God, wasn't there something where... I think Shuhei Yoshida said that they're like, oh, this won't be the PlayStation 5 won't be the last PlayStation generation. Like, it's always nice to hear that confirmation.
Sure.
Like, things will go on, even if it is a confusing streaming box just called the PlayStation, which, if Xbox does it first, which I think they will. I think
the next one will be called Xbox.
I think they're going to call it Xbox.
Betamax 2.
Exactly. Tim.
HD DVD.
Oh boy.
Looking
Tim
sounded perfect.
Conlon says, hey, minis, minions, or whatever. With Disney Plus, I'm rewatching The Simpsons, and it has some of the best running gags. Milhouse saying, my glasses, when he gets hurt. Homer being too excited to speak correctly, a la Trimbopoline, or Skinner's Vietnam monologues, to name a few. What are some of your favorite running jokes in shows, movies, or games? Best running jokes.
I mean, Arrested Development's got a lot. They're the king of it, kind of.
Right, and then they really stabbed you through the heart with it in seasons 4 and 5.
Yeah, we all watched season 5, right?
Do you remember? Did you watch season 5?
I watched half of it.
That's amazing,
It's pretty telling because I love Arrested Development so much. But,
Man, that's sad.
Yeah. So I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
For me personally.
This is a weird one, and it's almost to the point now where it's become too saturated and everybody knows it. But just in terms of like recurring things that'll always delight me to no end is Paul Rudd on Conan.
Yeah,
showing the Mac.
That's
and
what
me.
I was going to say, and I thought I misread that. For some reason, that's the first thing that popped into my mind. I wasn't thinking of gags on like sitcoms or anything like that. But yes, that is the premier example, and every time I'm just delighted that because like the last time he did it, it was on Conan's new kind of show, and he's plugging Netflix stuff, and so it's like maybe this is just a new era for Paul Rudd, because he has gotten so much more successful, in like the past year, and so it's like maybe he's moved on. Oh no, he hasn't moved on.
I love it. He talks about it in the Conan interview for Conan's podcast.
Yeah,
he talks about like the only person that broke him from that streak was Judd Apatow. He was like, please show a clip from This Is 40, please. Like, I love that Marvel couldn't do it, but like Judd Apatow was like, all right, I will show this clip from This Is 40.
Honestly, like, I think it was a bad move on Judd Apatow to like do it that way, because it's like, I watched that recent clip to what he was promoting, Living with Yourself, I think.
By the way, I love that on YouTube they don't spoil it either. Like, it just says like Paul Rudd shows a clip from his new show.
I wouldn't have watched that. As much as I like Paul Rudd, I wouldn't have sought out that clip to watch online if it was just like, here's a clip from my show.
Right.
We should probably say that his gag is that whatever he's hawking and going to show a clip of, he just shows a clip from Mac and Me instead, where a kid in a wheelchair gets pushed down a hill and it careens off of a cliff and like into the water, and the kid dies or something.
Well, then my favorite part is then it ends with the alien going, oh, and then sticking his head up and looking around.
Weird, creepy little alien pops up at the end, which for Living with Yourself, he did it, but it was 2 aliens because it was like the clone.
Oh, I didn't watch that one. There we go.
It's very fun.
It's a good show, by the way, Living with Yourself.
Paul Rudd's amazing.
He's the best. Yeah, I just listened to Blank Jack's commentary for Endgame, in particular, the Avengers film. And you forget, like, Paul Rudd is so good in that film and so crucial, and just in every scene he just brings it down to this awesome human level while still being so funny. Like, remember that scene? I forgot how funny it is where Thor, remember, he's drunk and he's explaining the plot basically to Thor in the Dark World or whatever, like about like, okay, and then the time stone or whatever was in my girlfriend, yada, yada, yada. And everyone's just bored because he's going on and on about the Dark Elves and just cuts to Ant-Man. He's just like riveted like on the edge of his seat about Thor telling this story. So funny. JT says, "What up, nerds?"
Hey,
Ben,
on.
yeah, I think I'm proud to be a nerd. I consider myself a dork. I think more than a nerd.
No, it's geek, right? Everyone's
Geek?
happy to be a geek now.
Is that what it is?
I think so.
think
But dork is like a geek with just awkward physically, which is why I go to that.
Oh, and you're proud of that.
Proud of it. He says, I was fortunate enough to watch yours and Jeffem's Jurassic Park walkthrough video. This is Jurassic Dreams on our YouTube channel, and could not believe how quickly you effed up in the beginning. I was lolling for sure.
It was very
if anyone
good.
hasn't seen it yet, please do. Secondly, I need to know how you, the biggest Jurassic Park fan in the world, could not comprehend how the command center and the vent escape room were the same room in
Thank
Jurassic
you.
Park. I don't know if it's just been a while since I've seen this film, but the basic premise was
You've
this
seen it
Jurassic
100
Dream. I know,
times.
I have. But in Jurassic Dream, they recreated the island, right? Basically, you can wander around Jurassic Park, go through the visitor center, stuff like that. And as you're exploring, like, it's fun to try and figure out the layout. And then it's like, okay, well, here's the room where they crawl up in the vent at the end to avoid the velociraptors, and she does the Unix system. I know this. Got it. And then you're like, well, yeah, it's on Nedry's computer. And I was like, what? No. Yeah, it is absolutely on Nedry's computer. And JT's wondering how I figured that out. I went back, looked at the clip, and it's like, yeah, it's very clear. They have like the Oppenheimer picture, which is on Nedry's computer, also on the computer that she's hacking with. But there's I maybe need to go back and watch it again just to make sure that I'm not insane. But there's some way that it's shot. I think it's just all the shots of the command center
Just from a different angle or something?
are from the back, looking towards the front, looking towards all the screens, right? And then that scene, the camera is the other angle, so you can see the door, and you can see Ellie and Alan pushing against the door, right? And so maybe that's what threw me off. But in my mind, yeah, I don't know how I blew that, and I like to apologize
Video
on behalf
producer.
of Jurassic Park.
Thank you for apologizing.
It's very embarrassing. Let's see. Kane Dietzel says, "Hey guys, with the rumors of the Resident Evil 3 remake coming next year, and Fable 4 concept art leaks. Did you see those, by the way?
I did.
It seemed like there was some debate where it's like, oh, just the kind of like research from the 16th century is like the one thing that is
I
from
think
Playground.
The artist came back and said that it had a pretty clear excuse for it, like not necessarily being Fable or like they weren't. They
it was
were
just
like,
research.
yeah, it was
but
just
but there
research.
was something that came out of that as well.
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
And by the way, yeah,
I believe it to be Fable concept art. For what it's
100%.
worth.
Like
Yeah.
I was in Guilford not too long ago for the Dreams cover story, and it seems like everyone's in the loop that like clearly this is what Playground's working on.
Yeah.
But anyways, Kane Dietzel says, I started thinking about franchises that I want a sequel to, specifically Too Human. I love the way that the game came out, and it was extremely sad not to see any sequels. My question is, what gaming franchise that is no longer around do you wish had more entries?
I wish Advent Rising had gotten a few sequels.
That's
Just
the chair?
Yeah. It was a interesting story, and it ends with a big cliffhanger. But I think Chair's a little busy now. I don't think they're going to rush back to the Advent Rising
Working on
universe.
Fortnite. When are they going to work on Spy Jinx again? Remember that J.J.
Yeah.
Abrams game?
What about Shadow Complex 2? The rumor
Right.
is they laid out the whole map.
Yeah, okay. Really, those Spy Jinx. Like, how the hell does that not happen? Is it just
know.
Fortnite has consumed everything, and so why
Probably,
spend
yeah.
money on anything else? Screw you, JJ. He's busy.
Yeah.
They're busy, so.
That's right.
Doesn't he have games with Valve that he never did anything with?
Hey, JJ.
Get on the ball, man.
Get off your ass.
What's going on?
Release something.
Yeah. Did you see him on Colbert, by the way? I don't know how I
no.
feel about this, because one of my favorite bits in the build-up to Force Awakens was J.J. Abrams was on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and Jimmy Kimmel asked him the very smart question. It's so specific, but I genuinely love it, because they're so tight-lipped they can't say anything. But he asked J.J. Abrams what the first word of Force Awakens was. And J.J. Abrams was like, yeah, I guess I can reveal it. It's this. And like he had a huge banner, like confetti for the word this.
Yeah.
And then Colbert did the exact same thing, but he like cited Jimmy Kimmel, which was weird. But he's like, Jimmy Kimmel did this for Force Awakens. What would they ask you for Rise of the Skywalker? What's the first word of Rise of the Skywalker? And he said, at. Isn't that interesting?
Capital T?
And capital. Yeah, so I think it's at coming this way is the first line.
That's weird. Yeah. That's weird that they just ripped off the gag. And
Yeah, I wonder if
credit.
he asked Jimmy Kimmel about
Maybe
it. 'cause
J.J. Abrams wanted to do it?
Maybe, but Kimmel is certainly going to get an interview for Rise of the Skywalker. So why
Rise of the Skywalker?
the Rise of Skywalker? Is that what it's called?
Rise of Skywalker.
Skies of Arcadia.
Yeah, that's right.
By the way, I also saw somebody on Twitter. This is again probably super obvious, but they're like, "Hey, this is probably referring to Anakin, right?" I think we all expect it to be like just the Skywalker name or Luke, but it's probably if it's about they're trying to wrap up the entire saga. It's
about the family, right? That's how I took it.
but what if it's more directly about Anakin?
What if Baby Yoda comes back and he's an Anakin? Oh, he's a Skywalker.
That's very smart. Very smart.
Read my 10-hour theory video about why this is true.
Read my 10-hour theory video?
Or watch it. I'll have a transcript. That's fine.
My answer was Alpha Protocol for a game that I want to see.
And now Obsidian can do no wrong.
That's right.
Neil Brown says, "Hey, Max Miners, who are some YouTubers that you guys watch pretty often? You mentioned Donkey a week or two ago, but is there anyone else you enjoy?"
I like Digital Gaming. I'm just checking on those guys.
Yeah, it's always flattering when they pull a lot from Game Informer. Sometimes cited, sometimes not. But it's like,
wish they would cite more. Yeah,
Yeah.
but they do good work for sure.
yeah, it's always like a little. When I have gone on those cover story trips and I know what they're pulling from, it's always like, well, kinda. Like for some of their facts, and then it makes me question everything else that they do. But still, like they're so consistent. Yeah, you gotta give it up.
I like watching, and this, maybe I don't know if this is like YouTuber territory, but I like watching a lot of Digital Foundry's videos.
Oh, they're so good.
Just because like a lot, it's hard to like. They're one of those people where what Emily Reese might be to game music. They're kind of into in terms of tech of like, here's why this version of this game looks better, or here's how well it runs, or here's kind of like a deep dive into what you're seeing in Link's Awakening when the frame rate slows down and kind of a lot of stuff that you've missed. I know that, a lot of video game writing is kind of moving away from like, oh, well, don't talk about it as like a tech product, but I like that there is a subsection that discusses like, here's how this game runs, here's how the different versions compare. And I like those as like a different kind of like, critique or like evaluation of a game that I feel is like very different from what we see a lot now.
And it's the fact that it can just become synonymous with that one thing. I think that's so incredible. Even just like for the name Digital Foundry, it's such a blah name in some ways, but it's just people use it like Kleenex in a way, right? Like, I got to pull some Digital Foundry thing and check out the tech behind this new game. Like, it's just they're so good at that.
Yeah, and they are so much more thorough than a lot of people who are like, well, the game runs kind of hitches on Xbox One or something, but they'll be like, well, Xbox One, the versions of the shadows look like this. It feels like they're running it with these settings on a PC, things like that. Like, here's what the RTX, and they'll also do fun stuff like they were talking earlier, like this year about how like they suddenly got into the idea of running modern games on like high-end CRTs. And how they say like the lag on these is actually way lower and it looks better.
Control looks cool on a CRT.
On a CRT, it's just like you have to the idea like flat screens are great, but if you can put up with the fact that this TV is enormous, I think a lot of the late era CRTs are actually better than a lot of modern TVs are now.
That's awesome. I also love good.
I was just gonna say, are we gonna loop back to CRT at some point? Is that gonna be like the new vinyl?
Like the vinyl movement is gonna be like getting a new CRT.
Widescreen.
The Smash Brothers community is already there, where they're obsessed with finding
We're
new
ahead
CRTs.
of the curve.
Yeah, we got Smash Brothers playing on a CRT behind us.
Watching the baby
video version. Yeah, I mean, I've had that TV since 2003. I love that thing. I'll never let it go. I promise. But I also love Game Explained, just in terms of like in-depth, very focused thing. Like if you need a breakdown of a Nintendo trailer that's out, they're amazing. They're so good.
All of mine are non-video game related, but I watch a lot of board game ones, and then I've also started watching a lot of woodworking videos, which are surprisingly just fascinating.
Yeah.
How's the production?
It varies. Like there are some where the production is really well, but they're just not as interesting. Like I think the best ones come from lifelong woodworking carpenter people who have decided, hey, I'm going to make videos about this too, because they're super knowledgeable. And
it's nice for them though that visually it's so interesting. You get some good wood filings. Who doesn't love a big old screw going through wood in slow motion
or
something?
the wood turning when they like turn bowls and stuff on a lathe.
Oh man,
that's
good.
It's mesmerizing.
I also admit that it's sort of like candy more than anything else, but I like watching those videos that I see on Facebook of like, we're going to make all these little food things, like these food hacks or whatever.
Those.
Like, I never watched them with the sound on, so I never like I never internalized any of the recipes. I was like, oh, that's a nice way to make chili or whatever.
Yeah.
But I like just the process of like, we're going to make this weirdo sandwich, and like here's like this overhead thing of like, we're going to put a bunch of crap in a bowl and we're going to mix it up real fast, and it's like we're going to swap it out. Like those videos are always so like immaculately produced that I can't help but watch them all the time.
Like I've gotten way more into cooking in the last like 2 or 3 years directly because of those videos.
Yeah.
Like I love those. Like,
Have you
Tasty
bought
and
any of
stuff
those
like that.
cookbooks? Because they'll be like, oh yeah, you see a bunch of like a billion other recipes here in this
I've looked
website
at
or
them.
book. Or
I've
something.
considered.
Yeah?
But I've definitely made a bunch of those things, like watching those videos for sure.
Lucas Ramey says, what are your thoughts on how negative other explosive outlets are on games in the industry? It's like they enjoy dropping a big IED on anything that might be remotely popular. Is there a valid place for these types of inquisitions that tend to think of themselves as the sterling silver of the industry, or do they only help to bring the industry as a whole down? I love your guys' positivity. There's something to this. I think it's an interesting question without pointing any fingers directly.
No, yeah.
I'm thinking of one. But there is just like, if I had to go out on a limb here, I think there are certain outlets in general and people at outlets, and it's like, they're all good people, no doubt, but I think some people are a little bit more sick of games. And as we talked about in episode 0, just they can be a little bit jaded about the situation they're in. And they almost become a little bit resentful towards, to be fair, a lot of horrific comments on the internet. You know, it's just like at a certain point you begin to associate gaming with like, ugh, I just have to read so many jackasses getting angry with me online. I don't know how to not connect that to my hobby, therefore I need to put down my hobby in some way. Is that fair?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so. And I think, like it or not, because of the tone of the internet, cynicism sells.
Yeah.
You know, like cynicism, and especially if you're mostly working on YouTube and you have the problem of the almighty algorithm that is paying your bills, essentially, the way that you get clicks is probably by being angry and yelling about stuff and criticizing stuff. Because I think I was reading a book on kind of board game design again, but he was talking about they've done studies that show that negative criticism, we weigh negative criticism more heavily in our own preferences than we do positive ones. Like you can look at user reviews for a random product and like it can have 1,000 4-star positive reviews and then like 10 negative ones, and we kind of seek out what are those negative ones, and then that affects us and thinks, oh, that's a bad product because this the 0.001% of people said that this is a bad thing. I think we kind of tend to think that the negative people are being more honest.
Okay, but I think there's a difference here. I think what Lucas is getting at is outlets that seem to look down on games or are cynical towards games in general. And I separate that from the YouTuber who's just negative and said everything is corrupt and everything sucks and Andromeda's the biggest disaster since the Holocaust, right? Which are you talking more of here?
I guess I don't see the distinction as much there. Are you saying like, are we talking the difference between being very critical and being kind of jaded?
I think so. I think I separate into two camps. I consider it the jaded camp and then the just idiot on
sensationalist
YouTube.
Kind of like
I guess so.
the kernel of truth is there. Like Mass Effect Andromeda was not a like widely
disappointing
beloved game, but you know the level of like in order for me to get all the clicks, I need to have this very clear outline like Mass Effect Andromeda killed my wife or whatever. Then so like you have to amp that up, and I think there is a difference. I think where I kind of maybe veer away is that I think a lot of it is also fueled like what Fava said about like we weigh that negative criticism a little bit more heavily. Is I think we tend to see a lot of I want to love something or I want to hate it, right? So like if I see like, oh, I'm really liking Star Wars, for example, and you see someone like completely like crap on it, you look at it and say like, well, now you know this thing that I like is tainted to some effect. And so I think it's very easy to see that as like, I don't know, like don't taint this for me. Like I want to just enjoy the thing that I like. But I guess for me, I always come of it of I want to hear what people have to say, even if it's contrary to what I like, because I read most of the reviews for like Travis. No More Heroes, Travis Strikes. I think Travis Strikes Again. I think is the name of it because there's like another game in there called Travis Strikes Back. So I'm trying to, which is a game that I liked a lot more than most people. And most people like you read those criticisms and turns out when you read a review of it, it's like they're addressing the same points that I did. They just kind of have a very different reaction to it, right? And so like I like reading that stuff. And even if I see someone like, this game is complete garbage, I don't know how anyone could like it. I guess I've sort of like, as a critic, I've learned to internalize that without saying like, oh well, now this thing that I like is broken, or like I can't enjoy it as much as I used to be able to.
Yeah.
So I think I do to some degree appreciate the like. Be someone who has a different take than me being negative about something.
Yeah.
But I think there are times when I think the dismissal, I think, is kind of one of those things where I think the when it irks me is that when it feels like they're not making their arguments in good faith, where it's kind of like, I was ready to dismiss this, I am going to dismiss this, I don't like it, I've never liked it, so I'm going to continue, I came into this with these expectations and I've ignored the contrary evidence to that. That is like, and that happens way more rarely than someone not liking a game for me.
Yeah. Tim Laro has a related question. Have you noticed that every comment on every IGN review is either wrongly interpreting the score summary or criticizing the author? How does a sweetheart like Kyle deal with this injustice?
I don't read the comments.
You really don't?
I really don't.
For anything? I see you on YouTube.
Really rarely. It depends. If it's something that like, I do read YouTube comments, but like comments on reviews, I don't read.
Just because you know there's nothing too interesting in there?
Yeah, and I just like, I don't want to get my feelings hurt. And because I do, like, I even got to a point, the one Skyrim VR, which is like the review that I got like the most negativity on. I got like so many emails about that. I got good at seeing the header or like the first line or two of an email.
You son of a...
And if it was like, honestly, if it was like that, it was just delete. And so like I do, maybe I'm closing myself off. Maybe it's not the best way to approach it, but like I made like Shenmue, for example. I like that. That was a low score.
What'd you give it on IGN?
A 5.9.
Jesus.
And like I know that there's a lot of fans out there, and like I know that people are going to be frustrated by that score. So like certainly right when I published it, I didn't look at those comments. In a week or two, I might go back and peruse some of them. But like like it's that thing of like you can see 1,000 nice comments, but when you see that one negative comment, you're just going to linger on that. So I just like try to avoid that. But like YouTube, like I don't know, it's like different because we're just like having a conversation and like it
helps too that MinnMax community is so effing nice.
Yeah, but also it's like it's not all on me. Like the review comments are generally like specifically directed at me, where like YouTube comments for something like this is like kind of even if they're negative, like it's for all four of us, you know, like so it's like a little different.
We all
I guess.
suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what if they all directly said, "You're a poser. You don't know Jurassic Park at all. Why didn't you understand that Lex was hacking using the control
It sucks.
room computer?"
It's not great, right?
It really hurts.
It does.
Pixelated Sausage says, I've been watching random old episodes of the Game Informer show, and I just so happened to listen to one where you and Tim Turry interviewed Greg Miller about leaving IGN. Now that you've pulled a Greg Miller, not yet. How long until Greg interviews you about leaving Game Informer to start MinnMax? Also, did you ever consider calling this new venture definitely funny? I did not. I did not.
That'd be funny. That would have been funny.
Greg has been really sweet. I don't know him that well, but we texted a little bit, like right when I announced MinnMax overall and stuff, and he was very sweet. I don't know if he does many remote things.
I don't know. I mean, you'd probably be over in
I assume,
San Francisco
I would
at some
love to
point
swing
in the
by
future.
at some point. Yeah, for sure. I'm a big fan.
And even for, I don't know what our plans are for like GDCs. Like there are enough events going on in gaming.
Right, but Imran Khan is doing stuff over at Kinda Funny, and I've been having a hell of a time just getting the tech working behind doing Skype interviews and stuff. But I have a cable coming on Friday, and so once
Why'd you look at your watch like it's the date?
Also, he's not wearing a watch.
All right, gentlemen.
I can't believe you don't know things about watches. What is wrong with you? You made that video about watches, and it's like you don't know anything.
And we just had that big conversation about Watchmen, and you're like, I really like this show. Do you even like it?
The point is, I'd love to Skype in Imran at some point in the future once I get that tech ironed out.
And for what it's worth, when I met Greg, he was a wonderful, like, nice guy. Like he had nothing but
there's
good
certain
things.
people where it's like, I admire that guy's hustle so much, and I remember that interview on the Game Informer show talking about it. But it is, I mean, you gotta tip your cap. Like, I understand some people watching and be like, oh god, the Greg Miller presentation on YouTube, I got it, I got that style, I'm so sick of it. At the same time, like, that guy hustles and he has earned that success. It's bonkers. Plus, he retweeted the announcement of MinnMax, so I'm forever in his debt. Joey Markham says, hey, MinnMax dudes. So Hansen keeps saying that Pokemon in-game cries should be voice acted like the anime. This literally got me to subscribe to your Patreon so I could ask you There we go. Nearly every Pokemon has a different name depending on the language it's translated into, right? I always forget that. The legendary is universal. Isn't that a fun detail?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that makes it much easier.
There's at least 2 of them. I think this is because a lot of Pokemon names are pretty much based on puns, and a lot of the time that kind of wordplay doesn't translate very well. Yeah, they told us a story about there's some Pokemon in Spanish sounded like the word garbage. Anyways, and this is a waste of time. Anyways, this gave me an idea This gave me an idea for a game to prove that it's a dumb idea to record a dozen different cries for 1,000 different Pokemon. I argue that's not true. The game is pretty simple. I'll give you the foreign name of a Pokemon and the language of that name.
Okay.
You will need to guess what the English name of that Pokemon is.
All right.
The Pokemon I've chosen for this game are all from the beginning-ish of Sword and Shield or from Gen 1. Do you want to stick just to Gen 1?
Yeah, I'm not going to know Sword and Shield ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, in Japanese, I don't understand. I'm very stupid when it comes to language. I don't know how this works. Do you understand this, Jeff? Because it's not like it's katakana. When it's just all right, this is what the name is in Japanese, but it's a name spelled in English. How does that work?
Yeah, you can, katakana translates directly into letters that we have in English.
Okay. So Japanese, the name is Lizardon.
Is that Charmander?
Incorrect.
Is it the other Gen 1 lizard Pokemon?
Is it the one? Well, because the problem is I don't know like a lot of the later Gen Pokemon
Well, this
names.
is all Gen 1.
Oh, this is all Gen
Right.
1?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so you're giving us the
You're so
Japanese
close.
name.
Dratini?
Charmeleon?
Charizard.
Oh,
Working
I
your
feel
way
like
up.
you can give that to me.
All right,
right?
all right. Ooh, this is very good. All right, I'm skipping it. This isn't Gen 1. This is Sword and Shield. Okay. It is in French. The Pokemon is Momotan. Mumutan?
Okay.
Moau.
How's it spelled?
Moumouton in French.
Mau.
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume it's the cow Pokemon whose name I can't remember, but
Is
that's
it
not Gen 1, and that's not Sword and Shield
This is
either.
Sword and Shield.
Is it Meowzerker? Perzerker, sorry.
Think about that repeated sound. Wooloo, ladies and gentlemen. Wooloo.
Wooloo, okay.
Oh
All
my
right.
God. Okay, Japanese name. This is Sword and Shield as well, but I think it's from an earlier generation. In fact, I know it is. Jiguzaguma.
Is it Jigglypuff?
Nope. Zigzagoon. Let's see. And then Japanese Koi King.
Magikarp.
There we go. We got one, baby. Way to go. Mike Spam says, did you guys see the Halo stickers for Counter-Strike Go? With Master Chief Collection coming to Steam, they released Halo stickers that you can get in Counter-Strike Go. Isn't that weird?
I mean, it's
cool.
They did a thing with Dota a while ago where if you pre-ordered the Steam version of Okami, you got Amaterasu as a courier in Dota, and that's the one I still use.
That's
It's
so
very
fun.
good.
Hey, speaking of which, Zane Dukas writes in and says, hello, friends. Hello. What does Serial think about the new Dota 2 patch? I'm really interested in the new changes to the Courier and Observer wards.
There's a ton of that in that patch. It's like I think this is probably the biggest patch they've done since like the huge 7.0 update.
Yeah.
They did a couple years ago. Because they totally just like they've gotten in the habit of introducing things that as a match goes on, they just want everything to just completely fall apart and break in these really ridiculous ways. So now like heroes used to not be able to level up, I think the old limit was like 25 and now it's 30. So now you used to be able to select these talent trees, but now at 30 you just get everything. Like there are all these game-breaking abilities that once you get to 30, it's just like your character's just ungodly, like incredibly powerful. And now they have these the biggest kind of changes. You have these random items that can drop from neutrals, which is just like you just kill enemies, and normally you have to buy items, but now they can just drop randomly. And there's like a whole set of different items that drop from those from neutrals exclusively.
Is that like a Smash Brothers-y kind of?
It's not like they're suddenly you're walking around and here's a new item. It's more like there's a chance that they will drop from killing enemies out in the wild, basically. So it's not something you can really plan for. So when it comes to item builds, it introduces this element of improv of like, okay, because those items can be shared between teammates. So it's like, okay, we got this item that gives you a critical hit every 8 seconds. Who on our team is best equipped? Like, what's the hero on our team who can best utilize that? And so like you're kind of changing your build on the fly depending on what items you're getting. And so now there's also like capturing outposts in like there's 2 outposts that give you extra experience every 5 minutes. They have all these like game breaking things now that feel balanced because they're introduced very late in the game because at some point you just want the game to end. So all that stuff is like really crazy, and a lot of heroes changed. So like it's really crazy. It's like one of my favorite times to play Dota is when no one knows what they're doing, and everyone's like, "Oh, here's this character that has been played as a carry. I'm gonna do support lifestealer because why not?" And everyone kind of gets mad at that person, but it kind of works sometimes, maybe. So these are like my favorite times of the year because it feels like everyone is kind of reset to their basics of like, let's just figure something out. Who cares?
How does the overall community react to that? Because it seems like such a hardcore community that coming in and completely changing everything, does the community complain about that?
I
or
think
are
they're
they
usually
into it?
Valve has established a cadence where they release maybe 1 or 2 major patches a year. So before this, people were starving for like something new.
Okay.
So like because those things are so game changing, it feels like, oh, Dota feels fresh again. Like I'm not playing the same game that I was, and because the hero balance changes, you're not seeing the same heroes again. So everyone right now is pretty excited, but within a month or so, people will be like, well, this is clearly the best thing. I'm so tired of it now.
Yeah.
But the bigger the patch is, and the longer that takes to happen. So
Cool.
very excited.
Yeah. There we go. Edward Bailey says, all credit for this question goes to Game Informer's own Kimberly Wallace, K-Star 1985 on Twitter. So it is. She asked on Twitter what the best use of a song in a video game trailer is. I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on noteworthy trailer music. The ones that jumped to my head were Mad World for Gears and White Rabbit for Lost Odyssey. I don't remember that one.
In a trailer specifically.
Yeah. If you go back, commercial, like I remember it blowing my mind, the Smash Brothers commercial that's in the background here, Happy Together from the Turtles.
That's good.
But in recent memory, and also it reminded me we should let's take another look at this, is GTA 5's trailers were amazing. Just the editing in those are mind-blowing, and specifically the Radio Gaga trailer from Queen. Like, go back and watch that trailer. It is so amazingly put together for the timing of that song with like quotes from the game itself. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. Man, it's what's super fun about Rockstar trailers is like you watch, at least I watch them over and over, and you start to learn those lines.
Yeah.
And then when they come up in the game, it's always so like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Right. Like in that one, I've seen it so many times. Like when the therapist says like, I think you have an anger problem. And, he goes, I don't know if that's true, doc.
Yeah,
like, it's just, and then you hear it in the game. It's he said the trailer line.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, doc.
What was Arthur's where he talks about, in Red Dead Redemption 2, where he's like talking about the, I've seen your name in our ledger. Like that, that line? That
What was that? It's like Spanish.
I was trying to do Arthur. It did not go well.
No, it goes like, I've seen your name in our ledger.
that was Marston. I'm sorry.
Good luck on your podcast.
Oh, wait, hold on. Now we're Sling Blade?
Yeah, okay.
Corey has a great question. With Thanksgiving coming up today, it's today. Happy Thanksgiving.
Marston's here, everybody.
Marston Christmas.
Marston?
I thought it.
Oh, hell.
Welcome to our new video series, vaguely kind of role-playing Red Dead. I thought I'd throw you a food-centric. Oh hell! I thought I'd throw you a food-centric game. Simple formula: go through the list of edible things in these games one by one for each title. Whoever identifies the game first wins.
Okay.
So it's getting more and more specific. Obviously, the game goes on.
All right.
This is for game series. Ready?
Not looking.
Yep. Bread.
Castlevania.
Gristle apple. Rat skewer. Rat skewer. Tin of brined hagfish.
Is that like a Fallout, maybe?
Hagfish. Serkonnen blood sausage.
Skyrim?
Nope.
Fable?
Tin of Pratchett jellied eels.
Bioshock?
Nope. Tin of potted debakva whale meat.
Metro.
Dishonored.
There we go. Dishonored.
Dishonored!
I don't think anybody would get that. Next one. That one, not so much. Okay.
Okay.
Banana.
Donkey Kong Country.
Butter.
Is this how you want us to play? Is this a guess for every?
Yeah, that's fine. Grilled chicken sandwich.
The Breath of the Wild. Oh wait, hold on.
Grilled
You
cheese.
can milk grilled cheese and
Raw meat.
Breath of the Wild again.
Honeycomb.
Still Breath of the Wild.
Kadweenie stout.
Witcher.
There we go.
Hey.
Way to go, Kyle. Very good.
Witcher.
Baked apple.
Breath of the Wild.
Correct. Hey, there you go, Kyle.
I knew it would work eventually.
Last one was
What
dubious
I want to hear
food.
what the list was. for Breath of the
Baked
Wild.
apple, seared
Okay.
steak,
Yeah.
carrot stew, big hearty radish,
Yeah.
sun shroom, mighty porgy, dubious food.
A big hearty radish would have done it.
Salad. Sashimi.
Final Fantasy 15.
Pale broth.
Monster Hunter World?
Pink cake. Miner's treat.
Pokemon?
Farmer's lunch.
Stardew Valley.
There we go.
I haven't even played that game. You guys need to step up.
Here we go. Burger.
Breakdown.
Pizza.
Streets of Rage.
Onion soup.
Yakuza.
Tomato soup.
Yakuza 2.
Mushroom soup.
Final Fantasy 15.
Fish and chips.
The Getaway.
Pokemon Sword and Shield?
Salad for, quote, the ever peckish, a.k.a. the beast.
What?
Salad for the beast.
Is this a Monster Hunter thing?
Think about these. What's notable about a burger? Other than it's mushy.
It's mushy. Yeah.
Mid snacks. what's like, let's talk about burgers. When you're talking about burger, what's the first thing you talk about?
Meat.
Breakdown.
Well
Oh,
done.
what's this?
The game Breakdown.
No, not the game breakdown, but you're close to where I was going with it.
The ingredients?
There we go.
You break down the ingredients?
Cooking Mama.
No, but close. Pizza. Different soups. All these things have different separate pieces that argue that you have to compile.
What was that game?
Hopefully with
what was
your
that game
buddies.
that you
Right,
reviewed?
right. Overcooked.
There we go. Only overcooked. Way to go. Way to go.
What was the Koji Kondo? Not Koji Kondo. Koji Igarashi game. The Castlevania that you came out this year.
Bloodstained?
Bloodstained. Yeah, because you mix a lot. You make pizza in that game.
Yeah. Anna Zhang says, hello, MinnMaxers. Someone said on last week's show that they still like the idea of owning their games by buying physical copies, and it got me thinking about a thing that happened a couple months ago. Destiny 2 New Light dropped, and I realized that my disc copy of Destiny 2 is now nothing more than a useless piece of plastic that I can't even resell. Now, this might be the norm for games as a service, but a lot of major AAA single-player games still require a hefty download or patch to be playable at all. So if those patch servers go offline, wouldn't that make the disc useless as well? Are we just fooling ourselves here thinking that buying the physical copies of games make you more of a quote-unquote owner of said game than getting the digital copy?
I think it depends on the game. Like online services for sure, but I think if you buy like a copy of like Indivisible, I think you're pretty good to go on that one unless, they immediately delist it. But even then, it's like I think you're pretty set.
But still kind of screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it
It
also,
is an illusion, for sure.
It also depends on what state the game was in when it came out. Like, it's hard to say. That's a hard question to answer of like, if I put this into a box now and started playing it, was the launch version of it decent, or were there game-breaking bugs that they had to patch? Was there a day one patch to it?
For sure. It's just
that's
crazy.
everything that's going to be lost.
Yeah, and it's crazy to just realize when you have an offline console how many games require it that you wouldn't even think of it. Like, for setting up the studio here at MinnMax, I have like an Xbox One in here, and just was trying to boot up Perfect Dark to test like the audio. This is the remake of Perfect Dark, just to like test out audio sync and stuff. And it's like I could not boot up that game without being on the internet so that I could sign in. It's like, what? Really? Perfect Dark? This is stupid.
I mean, you will always be more of an owner with the physical copy, though, right? I mean, just like, without a doubt. I mean, like, was it Ouya? I mean, every Ouya game that you own now is gone, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Battleborn, they're taking the servers off. It's amazing they gave a heads up, but 2021. Jeff, you went on that cover story. Remember that? Remember how excited they were for that?
Yeah.
And just, you will not be able to play that game in any way.
Who's that? Aaron
Lindy, the writer. Yeah.
Was tweeting about it. And as much as we all make fun of Battleborn for not being the hit Gearbox wanted it to be, like, I totally sympathize with him because he's like, this was my life for a number of years, and when that game becomes unplayable, like, does it even exist anymore?
And he brought up he had so much specific dialogue for specific situations that like even a YouTube capture couldn't get the essence of it, and it's just gone. It's real sad.
Thankfully it'll live on in Ready Player One as weirdly being overrepresented in the background of that movie.
Wait, so that wasn't? I guess that's not reality anymore because the future is not playable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe they bring it back, like 10 years from now. Resurgence of Battleborn.
Yeah,
will be
for Battleborn Reloaded.
That's right. Battleborn again.
Brian W. says, random and weird but specific question.
Perfect.
Could you please put the title of the podcast first in the description? My Apple Podcast app always lists your general description, then shows the show name at the end. Sometimes the title gets cut off. I'd love to see the MinnMax show or Max spoilers, then the general info after. That's a great suggestion. I flipped it from how I did it at Game Informer. Sorry, this is nerdy, but I'm sorry, dorky. Just because geeky. Like YouTube in particular is like our best bet for reaching a new audience and stuff, and so I'm trying to get the meatiest thing first, just for that off chance they lose interest halfway through reading the title. But you're right, for the audio versions, there's no reason not to make it the old school way. So I will. Sure. They don't have to be uniform, so I'll reverse it for audio moving forward. Thank you for the suggestion, Brian. We work for you and our other Patreon supporters. All right, last one. Ready?
2 ends.
Daniel White says, "Hey, Min.
Min?
Mm-hmm. Like Minutemen even.
That's not bad.
I have a game for you. 3 games this week. We love games.
It's a copy of Star Wars.
Can you match the following Final Smash moves in Smash Brothers with their corresponding fighters?
Apparently, I will see myself out.
Each Final Smash. By the way, Kyle, you randomly chose Smash Brothers on the TV today. This is a coincidence. Apparently, they have an official name for these Smash moves.
Yeah.
You ready? This is from Smash Ultimate.
Okay. So we named the character.
Yes.
Okay.
End of Day.
Animal Crossing guy.
No, but
that's actually
close.
not bad. Yeah.
It's a Nintendo character.
Duck Hunt?
No, it makes sense. Think about a game where end of the day is a big deal.
Child Link?
Interesting. No.
End of day.
Yoga Lady.
Imagine I'm blowing a whistle. Nope.
Yoga Lady's actually pretty good.
Olimar?
There we go. Olimar. End of day.
Yep. Okay. Okay.
Dream Home.
Dream
Wii Fit Trainer?
Home.
No, Animal Crossing Village.
There we go. Dream Home. This is everyone's favorite. Black Hole Laser.
Captain Falcon.
Bayonetta.
No.
Zero Suit Samus?
No.
Samus?
No.
Dark Samus?
She's a goddess.
Oh, Palutena?
There we go. Killer Whale. W-A-I-L.
Killer Whale? Okay.
Sonic?
No. That's actually, that's
such a clever guess.
So it's someone is it a Wario? Someone who screams, right?
Or, they might like screaming
Bayonetta?
through their headphones in the music they listen to.
So Squid Leg, Splatoon, Squid Ink.
I'm sorry,
Inkling.
I cannot give it to you. Again, you got to give it up to Nintendo for 1,000 different reasons, but the name Inkling is so good.
Yeah.
It's good.
They're smart.
Max. Oh, this person says MinnMax, but Max Malicious Moonsault.
Lucario?
Close.
All right, so we're Pokemon.
Max Malicious Moonsault.
Incineroar?
There we go.
Hey.
Last one. Stampede.
Oh man, I can visualize it.
Right. What is the character?
That should be apparent if you can actually
Well,
visualize
I think you're lying to everybody about what's in your brain right now.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I can visualize it too.
It's just like, I know it's like a herd of animals that come rips through the stage, right? Does that not happen?
Yes.
Help me, Serial.
Animals.
Animal Crossing. It's all the villagers.
It's a character that's in the first Smash.
Is it
not
Captain
Yoshi, is
Falcon?
It's Yoshi.
Oh, Yoshi,
There
of
we
See,
course.
go.
but isn't Yoshi's Final Smash the one where he turns into a dragon, or was that just in Brawl?
It might have been
It's where he has the
Brawl.
wings?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's an earlier
Brawl.
one. Yeah. Daniel White, thank you for
Can
writing
you,
in about
can
that
you
one.
real
That's
quick look
lovely.
up the Castlevania Final Smash? I don't know how quickly you can look that up because that one has a crazy name. It's like Death of something Knight or Coffin or something.
Grand Cross?
Okay, that's not that interesting. I thought it had Death or Coffin in it or
Maybe
something.
the Richter's is different. I don't know.
Hey, everybody. You ready for Get a Load of This?
Get a load of this. Is this how we do this? If you're watching, if you're just listening, Hanson's making a weird hand motion.
Serial Vasquez, what should we get a load of this week? What's something that caught your eye and you can't let go of?
Well, this is maybe a little bit different, but in keeping in line with the theme of music,
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna very quickly give my top 3 albums of the year. From across general music.
Please.
If you want me to do a regular one, I have one.
Hey, man, you do
set
you.
Up. Okay, so my number 1 would be Igor by Tyler the Creator. My number 2 would be Peacocks and Other Strange Animals by Tanisha the Wordsmith. It's like this really trippy. Well, like it's weird because she's a poet. She's not like an artist. But I don't know if
poets aren't artists.
Well, no, like she's not like a recording artist, right? Like she's not
Gotcha.
I think a traditional like, music artist, let's say, but she does a lot of it's like spoken poetry over these like beats, and like it works like surprisingly well. It's a pretty short album, but it is tremendous. And then let me look up the artist's name, but the name of the album is Legacy, and I think it's like Camila or Jamila Woods. Let me see. Jamila Woods, Legacy. And it's it feels very like mid 90s, kind of like a lot of like weird snap drums and stuff like that. So it's very good. Those are my 3 albums of the year.
You also tweeted about Lana Del Rey's cover of Doing Time.
Lana Del Rey's, yeah.
That's like one of my favorite songs this year. That song's so good.
That song is fantastic.
Love it.
Unfortunately, you didn't say the tagline for this, so you're disqualified.
Well, he said it
Again,
for me. I don't know.
no, you can't. No.
You can no longer get a load of
this. This one, we're going back to traditional tweets by a certain Joe Juba.
Oh, Game Informer's Joe
Hot
Juba?
stuff, yes.
Joseph Jubas.
He had a super long Twitter rant, which is so Joe Juba.
Yeah.
He said, hey, I'm going to vent about something.
Uh-oh.
It's always good when you announce it as you're starting it.
Here I go.
Don't get me started.
I often see people online asking variations of the question, what is one thing that many people like but you dislike?
Right.
I hate this question. Under the guise of discerning assessment, it just invites people to rain on other people's parades. Also, it tells you nothing interesting about a person. It's negative space. It's subtraction. Have you ever listened to someone talk about something they are both passionate and knowledgeable about? It's entrancing. That's how you get an interesting discussion. Ask about what people love and why. That provides insight. Asking why they don't like things is boring. So here's where I dislike Joe Juba.
Yeah, I'm
he's
with
a
you.
real
A lot of
jerk.
people like Joe Juba,
Yes.
but Fafa's not a fan.
He started it saying that he hates this question.
Yeah.
But it was still an interesting conversation. No. Actually, I think it's a great point, and I think it kind of talks about what we're doing here, right? It gets back to that idea of optimism over, hey, what else can we complain about? Which I appreciate.
Yeah, I think the reason people like that is, and I get it, I think being on the internet and listening to podcasts, it's a sea of personalities, a sea of voices, and it's tough to figure out like, this person is this, or like this is the little spark that makes me connect to this person. And you can do that through positivity, but I think it's also an interesting way to do it through saying
Through the dark side.
Through
is
the
what you're
dark
saying.
side, right?
Yes.
Is saying, I've never finished Super Metroid. Then people can be like, oh, that's that MFR that didn't finish Super Metroid. And maybe if they even enjoy the content, it's still like just some way to remember, you know? So, Joe, can it?
Yeah. Enough, Joe, with the rants.
Kyle.
Hey, get a load of this.
Yeah.
This is just a funny tweet from @Kibblesmith, Danielle Crossing Smith, and he tweeted, in my day, Frozen 2 would have been released directly to VHS with a new Olaf who sounds weird, and we would have been grateful. Which I had a lot of Frozen fever this week, and I thought that tweet was very funny and very true.
Frozen Fever, like Midnight Sun from Twilight Zone. How is it?
Frozen 2?
Yeah.
It was okay. It was underwhelming.
Yeah.
But still, like, Disney does good animated movies, and it's a good animated movie. But
Weakest probably in a while though from their main studio, right?
But it's
Yeah.
not Pixar, right?
No. I think so. Yeah. Like I liked Ralph Breaks the Internet more. I like Moana a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
But still, like, I like those characters. It was fun.
Yeah. Seems like it took over the box office. So
Yeah.
Congratulations. The obvious happened. For me, hey everybody, get a load of this. Do you know what the character's Dead Man, Del Toro's character in Death Stranding has in common with Higgs from Death Stranding, has in common with the Game Informer office? Justin Leeper, former Game Informer employee, did the motion performance for Higgs and Guillermo del Toro's character in Death Stranding.
Oh, really?
Yes. He finally tweeted this out that he worked on it. Not only that, also did the quote he provided the facial data for BB in the game.
That's so weird.
So this is like, not the skin itself, but like the musculature and stuff underneath all these characters was Justin Leeper. And so he says he doesn't see it, but if you see a little bit of this Justin Leeper fella, former Game Informer employee, in BB, there's a reason for it. Isn't that
so
bizarre?
weird. Yeah, I didn't know.
That's crazy.
Justin was before my time.
Yeah, way before my time. Did you overlap
him.
with him at all, Jeff?
No,
Okay.
I've met him, on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
Does he
but-
look like a baby?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He
Yeah.
actually blew a heart at me, and it was or a bubble, and it was in the shape of a heart. So
How bizarre is that? He's gone around. He
it's
does
so
a lot
weird.
of mocap and stuff, but he's worked with
That's cool.
Kojima before, I do believe. But yeah, he's finally able to share that. So there we go. Hey, get a load of that, everybody. How enjoyable.
We did it.
Thanks for listening or watching. We know it's been a long episode, but we appreciate everybody's support this week. Definitely check out MinnMax's YouTube channel. We've been posting a lot. If you're thankful that we released this on Thanksgiving, that we didn't skip this episode, you could show your support by sharing MinnMax with a friend, or support us on Patreon if you're just listening or watching this. My mouth is falling apart at this level, but we appreciate your support. Also, please remember that, December 9th, which is the Monday, we're going to have our first big community meetup here in Minneapolis, and we'll try and figure out a way to get other people involved if you aren't in Minneapolis. But if you're in Minnesota, I really want to leave a good impression on Bauhaus, the brewery. So we have the post on the Twitter feed and stuff like that on the official Facebook page for MinnMax. So check it out, and please join us for that, everybody. Jeff, you'll be there?
yeah,
Kyle, you're on the fence, but
Yeah, my wife's gonna be out of town.
There we go.
So I gotta figure out some babysitting
Okay.
details. But I
Little
would like
babysitting.
to be there. Yeah.
okay, that sounds great. But a lot of us will be, and I assume some Game Informer folks will be there as well. We'll drag them all out. But hey, thanks everybody. It's been a fun one. If you like the show, share the show. It's all we ask. All right, be good, have fun. Let's go.
Bye.
Am I in the video now?
Yeah.
Sam is particularly intrigued by the name of this game developer.
Naughty dog. 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 Naughty dog.
Are you proud of your work accomplishments today, Sam?
Naughty dog.